Hey everyone, you're listening to the official podcast of 4PlayerNetwork.com. Check us out at that address for everything you need to know about our community, monthly giveaways, and nightly live streams. You can even support us on Patreon at patreon.com/4Player. And last but not least, you can catch the live recordings of these podcasts every single Thursday night on our Twitch channel. We hope to see you there. Enjoy. Welcome to 4Player Podcast. This is episode 716. It is April 14th, 2022. I am your host, Nicholas Henderson, and I am joined by Brad Simons.
Hello.
Nolan Hedstrom.
How's it going, everybody?
Chris Davis.
Good evening.
And, of course, Crispy walked away from his mic as soon as we started recording, so I'll introduce him when he eventually comes back to the screen, which it looks like he might be doing now. Nope, I'm not gonna be able to. Okay, anyways.
As long as he's recording.
Yeah. I'm sure it's good. Hey, Crispy.
Hey, what's up?
Welcome to the show.
Oh, we doing a show right now?
Yeah, we're doing a show. This is it.
Cool.
He's definitely recording.
I am definitely recording. I was joking.
Oh,
My recording has been running for 1 minute and 31 seconds.
Perfect. Man, it gave me a little bit of a heart attack there for a second. Anyways, guys, welcome to the show. It's been 2 weeks since we did a recording, but you know what? We've got a lot to talk about tonight. A lot of stuff to cover, a lot of ground to cover news-wise. But we also have some neat impressions. In a second, we're going to check in with Brad because Brad is a Steam Deck owner.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't expect to be one of the few. Apparently,
one of the only.
Yeah.
On this show, anyways. Yeah,
mine's pre-ordered. I just don't got it yet.
I thought once the Q2 emails started going out, we'd hear about everybody finally getting them. But I got my email that first day, and then they shipped it out, and I haven't heard it about anybody else.
It's a bit of a trickle. So yeah, and my question is how transparent is Steam being or Valve being with when these emails go out? Like, do they only go out on Mondays? Like, if you don't get an email Monday, you have to wait till the next Monday at the earliest to get your email?
I have no idea.
I think they're being pretty forthright.
Some people claim it they only go out on Mondays. And if that's the case, Mondays are going to suck until I get my email. But anyways.
My understanding is that there's like third-party...
I can hold the fan up to my microphone, and y'all can hear how loud this thing can get.
Yeah.
I think I heard it for a second there.
Did anybody really expect this thing not to be loud?
No. It's not that loud. It's that the the speakers on the thing are actually pretty damn good. It's more that it's kind of like a high pitched whir, which can get kind of annoying. At least when I first started playing it, it was annoying. But I just sort of tune it out now.
I know we're eventually going to talk about Steam Deck. This is not really the official conversation. Now that I have a question in my head that I want to get out before I forget it. And my question is this. Is it the kind of thing, like, if you were laying in bed playing it with, like, your spouse next to you trying to sleep, is that a bad idea?
I mean, I'd probably wear headphones.
Well,
I mean, shitty handheld if that was the case, right?
If you're wearing headphones...
I'm not worried about me. I'm worried about my wife.
You're talking about the fan making noise.
Like,
let me tell you something about the Steam Deck. This is not
Is she a light sleeper?
This is not really an bed kind of device. I feel like not like a hold over your face device because if you drop it, that's bad news. This thing's quite a bit heavier than a Switch. Are we really not talking about this?
Yeah. Fine, fuck it. We're talking about the Steam Deck now. Tell us all about the Steam Deck.
Hey, Nick, I got a Steam Deck.
Show us your deck.
I would, but it's not really showing up very well because of my background.
Because the green screen on.
Maybe you should turn off your background for a hot second.
There it is. It's a Steam Deck. We know what a Steam Deck looks like. It's like a big Switch. You ever put those hoary
that's
controller things on your Switch? It's kind of like that size, but heavier.
Well, that's what I'm accustomed to now at this point.
Oh, well, there you go. So you'll be used to it. It's just heavier and a little bit louder. And a lot more options to play. But then again, this feels like, it's very cool. It's very impressive. but it feels like a device in early access. Like in terms of like support and just the odds and ends of what it can do.
I mean, is that not kind of what every handheld feels like at launch? I feel like
no. Like it obviously it's promising a lot more than your average handheld, but like when a Switch comes out, it's limited by like what the library is at the time, but it's still like, a complete and polished device, right? Like this thing seems a little rough around the edges.
So first, I do have a question, but before that question, a statement. I would say the argument there is when you're developing a Switch, you're developing something and then everyone's making games for that thing and you have control, versus this, they have to make a device that works for everything.
Yeah.
And you're kind of working at it backwards.
And it doesn't work for everything. And we knew it wouldn't work for everything, but and I know that they don't have like all the info on every game ever in terms of like compatibility, right? Like you get things that are verified, you get things that are like playable but not quite like perfect. But sometimes that's just stupid little shit of like, hey, there's this one part in the game where you're gonna have to input some text, and to do that you're gonna have to pull up the keyboard, and that's kind of weird. So that you have a little yellow exclamation point next to this game instead of a green check mark, right? But most of the games you can still play. But then there's stuff like, and this is weird, games that are like fully playable on the Steam Deck and fine, right? Like, for example, Final Fantasy XIV, which is one of the games that I really wanted to play on this device. Like, the main hangup is not that the game runs perfectly on a Steam Deck, but for whatever reason, you can't get past the launcher, which seems like a fucking easy fix if someone sits down and figures it all out, but nobody's done that yet. So
is it just because the launcher is separate from Steam itself, which is
I mean that's not the only reason, because there's stuff. I mean, I guess that's sort of part of it, but there's stuff that's sort of like that still works anyways. For whatever reason, the launcher doesn't work, so you can't play the fucking game. At least you can't play the Steam version of the game. But people are finding workarounds for like if you have the non-Steam version of the game. So you can play Final Fantasy XIV on your Steam Deck if you bought it like directly from the Square Enix store and it's not the actual Steam version, which seems crazy to me, right? If any of the versions should work seamlessly, it should be the Steam version of the game. And right now, that's the one that you should avoid. Don't buy the Steam version if you want to play 14.
You have to jump through all the hoops, right, to set up this, basically set up the Steam Deck to access non-Steam libraries.
But here's why it's weird, and here's why it feels early access, versus like, this kind of feels like an old gaming PC, right? Where it's not just plug and play and everything just works. You got to kind of like fuck with it. You can get stuff to work, but you got to kind of fuck with it, and a lot of stuff is plug and play, right? Like plenty of stuff is plug and play, but some of the other things, like emulators or stuff that seems like it should be already working, like Final Fantasy XIV, which is a huge major game, or like let's say like xCloud streaming, right? Game Pass is not on Linux, it's not on Steam, it's not on the Steam Deck natively or anything, right? But it doesn't matter, because xCloud, you do that on your phone. You're just streaming through a browser, right? And that is essentially how it works on here. But like, you got to jump through hoops to get that working, right? Like where you're, adding like fucking like Proton scripts and shit into a console command. I mean, a console window, right? Like, you're at an advantage if you know Linux with this thing, right? This is also a device where. Oh, but I was saying with the example of Final Fantasy XIV, the reason is it's weird is because that shit's gonna get fixed. So I'm like in this weird like sort of limbo of like, should I just like wait it out a little bit? Because I know there's gonna be enough people who care enough about in an official capacity in executive rooms that are gonna care about Final Fantasy 14 working on a Steam Deck.
I'm sure that's
the Steam version, right? People are going to care. You can wait for them, or you can go to the community who's already figuring out workarounds. And it's the kind of thing of do I want to do the weird workaround version and then it gets patched and all of a sudden that doesn't work, or should I just wait a little bit? And that's why it feels early access, because I feel like I'm waiting on a lot of things.
You know what you could do, Brad?
What?
While you're waiting, you could play some Monster Train.
Well, yeah. So
how much Monster Train have you played on this device?
Well, I've played. So mostly what I've been playing is
Notice he avoids the question.
Yes.
Well, no, I haven't been playing that because yeah. Actually, I'm in this weird little awkward position where there's a lot of indie games I started on my PC that I'm like, fuck it, I'm gonna stop playing this. I'm gonna wait till it comes out on Switch, and then it comes out on Switch, and I play a whole shit ton on Switch, and now I'm back on the Steam versions, and it's like I'm not Ascension 20 and Slay the Spire on Steam. I don't want to start all over. I have the Switch version.
Okay, so tell us what you have played so far.
I've been playing Monster Hunter Rise, the PC version, which I was always playing. That was always planned to be one of the main things, right? Like the Switch version runs surprisingly well for a Switch game, but it is still a Switch game. And on the Steam Deck, Monster Hunter Rise, which was designed as a Switch game, runs really well on this hardware because that was sort of like an slightly underpowered Monster Hunter game. So it's running 60 FPS on here, and Sunbreak, which comes out at the end of June, launches day and date for PC and Switch. So I'm like, well, I got a Steam Deck. That's how I'm going to be playing Monster Hunter from now on, for Monster Hunter Rise at least. So I've been playing that. I'm stoked about that. Also, Vampire Survivors, because that's a good one. Yeah, that's a good game for handheld. But it's not. Vampire Survivors is like, it takes up a lot of your time, and it feels good when you're playing it, but when you're done with a session, it feels bad, right? It's like like
what am I doing with my life? Kind of bad, or like what?
Not what are you doing with your life, but you get that guilty feeling of like I could have been playing like a game that was broadening my horizons or some shit.
I didn't need to bust out a $600 machine to play this.
Yeah,
to play this game that you can play in a browser that's guaranteed to last at least, or at most, I guess, half an hour a session if you do well. But then at the end of it, it's like if you didn't unlock anything new or whatever, yeah, you can feel like you didn't really do a whole lot with your time.
Yeah,
for sure.
Even if you're unlocking shit, it's just every run is like minimum 30 minutes, right? So you're kind of like, it's a lot of time.
I'm thinking about my library that exists right now, and I actually, for the first time ever, went into my library recently and started like breaking up, like categorizing things into like this is like games that I would say are officially on my backlog that I actively want to play but haven't. And then I have a category of games that like I would like to replay at some point because I've just been thinking about them. And then I have everything else that's just kind of sitting out there in the void that I have. But like, there's so many games, like little games, that I'm kind of excited to
for Steam Deck.
Like, yeah, well, not necessarily because of the Steam Deck, but like, or specifically for the Steam Deck, but like the Steam Deck is kind of like it's like giving me this rush of like, well, this is a perfect opportunity to try some of these games that I have.
Right. Like it feels good when you're going through your library and you see that type of game. Like for me, I never finished Dishonored 2, right? Dishonored 2 is like a perfect game for the Steam Deck, right?
Yeah.
It's you're not going to really play it on your Switch, so, and you kind of don't really, it's an older game, so am I going to sit down in front of my PC and play some Dishonored 2? Like maybe, but I'll probably just play this other new game. But on a Steam Deck, it feels right, and really, that's sort of like a AAA game from like 6 years ago or whatever is kind of like the perfect Steam Deck game, right? I mean, you could play Elden Ring on this thing, but you'd probably rather play that on your big TV or whatever, right?
But I think the draw of it too is like what in situations where you can't play it at home, like being able, like
you're
I could play it at work, or if I'm traveling somewhere, I could play it. Like that's a cool concept.
But see, I've been getting all these games on my PS5 and now I've been getting all these games on Game Pass, and like my Steam library
is the thing that's freaking me out right now.
My Steam library over the past couple of years, I mean, I've not been buying a lot of Steam games because you don't really need to anymore. You get Epic's giving you free games, Microsoft's has all these available games, but I did get xCloud working, and there is some slight input delay, but for the most part, like, I could play like Tunic or whatever Game Pass games out just fine on my Steam Deck, even if right now I have to stream it. And I don't know if they're going to come up with a better solution. I heard installing Windows is a little iffy right now. In which case,
these are the kind of things that they'll eventually figure out. Like, I would imagine in a year's time, playing games on Game Pass on a Steam Deck is going to be like no big deal. It's just going to be the kind of thing.
It works surprisingly well. PS5 remote play on Steam Deck, but again, you have to like boot up into desktop mode, go into some console commands and like
Is that something you need to do
right
every time, or is that something
no,
you
no,
need
no,
to
no,
do
no, 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 no.
once?
No, it's the thing you got to do once, and then add it to Steam as like a non-Steam game. That's why. And when you launch into like whatever they call Big Picture now, it's just there, right? And you
Okay.
boot it up. But the first time is what requires you to bust out the mouse and keyboard. And if you're gonna get a Steam Deck, you should also make sure you have a little Bluetooth mouse and keyboard, or like a little wireless dongle,
That
USB-C
was going to be
wireless
my
dongle, or
next
whatever.
question for you, was have you used it in the kind of like dock mode where you hook it
No,
up to a
no,
TV and stuff?
I do have like a laptop dock around here somewhere, because the official one's not out yet, but it does work with like
Mhm.
laptop docks. But no, I
Yeah.
haven't really done that because, um, again, I got a Steam Deck because I'm not sitting in front of a desk messing with my games or anything. So, but I have plugged in a keyboard and a mouse, um, because it makes that part a lot fucking easier when
Mhm.
you're getting all this shit running. But it at the same, while it does feel early access, like I find that kind of, and this might sound weird, to some people, not to others. I find like the kind of old school PC gaming, like I got to do all this shit to get it working. Even you get some of that feeling like messing with emulators, right? But when you finally like do all the bullshit and you get it working, it's like it feels good, right? It's like, oh shit,
Mhm.
now I got PS5 remote play on my Steam Deck, and that's awesome, right?
Right.
And it's cool that there's people out there going hard, making sure all this shit works. I heard emulators, which is something I haven't messed with yet, like already amazing support for a lot of emulators on the thing, which is I think going to be one of the draws of this device for sure. Just because like you could play stuff on a Vita, you could play stuff on like a mobile phone with like a backbone or whatever. You can there's a lot of options for like devices to play emulators, but this has like so many controls, and it
Mhm.
feels like complete and good that like
How are
this is a
the
device
buttons
that I
under
want to play games on.
your like middle two fingers? How are those buttons on the back, like the R3 and
The back
R4 or
buttons,
whatever? Yeah.
yeah, they're good. I mean, they're
Mhm.
fine. I mean,
So
they're not so sensitive where you're accidentally going to press them, but which is
you know
good.
what's funny? Every time I see pictures of Brad holding the Steam Deck, I'm like, God, Brad's big hands make that thing actually look a lot smaller than I think it
Yeah,
actually is.
whatever, it's huge. um, but yeah, so it's
How
cool.
what about the placement of the analog sticks? Because I've that's kind of one of the
No, it's
things I've
fine.
been trying to wrap my head around.
It's fine. The thing is, I don't like the texture of the analog sticks. Like, I feel like they're a little too
Mm.
slippy. And I think they did like that touch technology that they basically use for nothing. So it knows when your thumb is touching the thumbstick, kind of like on the index controllers or
Mhm.
whatever, or like any VR. Yeah, yeah. Like the index controllers, or where they
Yeah.
know your thumb is touching it or not. Like, I don't know why that, like, no game has ever really done much with that. And I don't know. I feel like I want to get thumbstick covers so they're a little more tactile, but um, everything feels pretty good. Um, just one thing that I think is really cool is there's like a little button that you that you press. It's kind of like it's kind of like when you hold the home button on like a Switch, right? And you can adjust your brightness and volumes and stuff like that.
Yeah, all the
Like
like the
that,
system settings that you want
yeah,
quick access to.
quick
Yeah.
settings. But they have one here for like when you're running a game where on the fly you can adjust, like, oh, let's make the frame rate limit like 30 fps. Like, there's like little
Hmm.
quick settings that you would have to like go into a menu for on a PC game, right on like the outer level or whatever.
That's cool.
And it is cool. And then they show you like performance and the the battery life, which is constantly changing based on what you're playing. And
A question on, you kind of brought up, Switch and stuff like that. It doesn't have any kind of suspend functionality, does it? To like suspend a game, or
Oh, it does.
how
Yeah,
does
yeah. Yeah,
does
it's
that
like
work
a
okay?
Switch game. It boots back into well, so there've been like games where I'm trying to think of an example of a game
And, the
where I
reason
have
I
the game
bring
then
that up,
kicked back
Brad.
out because it loses like a network connection.
Yeah, the reason
Um
I bring that up is because, when I'm playing on my PC, I can't exactly like put my PC to sleep, and then when I wake it back up, my game's just right where it left off. That's not exactly, how it
yeah,
works.
it just sort of works here, but let's say you're doing Elden Ring. I bet if you
Mhm.
did that, it would like kick you out.
Dude, Yeah, I
Probably.
can't even do
connection
that on my
line.
PS5. Like when I'm playing
Yeah,
Elden Ring and I
exactly.
like try and put it in rest mode, I try and boot it back up and it tells me the game is crashed or whatever that
Yeah,
message
and
says.
that's fine. I'm not necessarily talking about games that
Oh,
yes have to have an active internet connection or anything like that. But I'm saying something that would some one off like Slay the Spire or Tunic
oh
or
yeah, yeah, for
Vampire
sure. It just
Survivors or something like
resumes.
that. Yeah.
It resumes,
Okay.
and which my guess is that the battery will drain a little, when you're suspended.
Sure.
But the stuff that isn't working, which makes complete sense, are like when I'm doing xCloud stuff,
Mm.
and I suspend like a game that I'm streaming.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Like obviously that's not going to resume properly, so I have to
Yeah.
like boot the game again. But
For sure.
yeah, it's cool, and I'm glad I have one. But I can't wait I can't wait till like a year from now because things
Oh,
going to
yeah.
be a lot better in terms of official support.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I'm looking forward to having it.
I want to play some 14, but I'm thinking that the
That's
best
gotta be a
thing for me
priority,
to
man.
do
Like that.
is for me to just remote play, because I have the PS5 version of the game, and I was always going to buy it on PC when I got a Steam Deck. But right now, since those workarounds are so weird, maybe I'll just remote play the PS5 version until there's official Steam support, and then I'll rebuy it or wait for a sale.
Sure. Man, I'm just
It's
looking
cool.
forward to kind of having like it's weird. It's such a weird thought to like have a new piece of hardware in your hand and know that you have immediate access to this like large library of games that you've been building up over the years, and it's like you immediately have. I mean, a lot of people who play a lot of games on PC will probably immediately have access to like dozens and dozens of games that they've paid for over the years and just have never touched. And that's pretty cool.
Brad,
yeah.
which model did you get?
The cheapo one, the $400 one.
Okay.
But I'll say
what
this:
are the main differences?
games,
I don't even remember.
hard drive speed and space,
speed
obviously,
and the size. Yeah, but I heard that the
big
SD
one's an
card
SSD,
slot's pretty
isn't it?
good.
if you get a good micro SD card, everything runs
Yeah.
fine from my experience. So
Yeah.
that was probably a little overblown, but I understand why people want to have like the fastest speeds on. I mean, I don't know. I mean, obviously it's more space. You're paying for more space, and
the other big difference is that the top end model also has a better screen on it.
No, it doesn't. It has like it etched. It has that an anti-glare cover on the screen. It's not a better. It's not like a better LCD.
Better is relative. We're not talking about like like physically better screen, but like it has
more resilient.
Yeah, it's anti-glare. It's not like there's a better LCD in there, is what I'm saying.
Okay.
So here's another thought: maybe this is a dumb question, but like on the more expensive model, which runs on an SSD, right? Is there an SSD in that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're all SSDs.
Is that going to impact? Does that mean potentially that whirring noise that you're hearing might be less?
No,
that's like just performance.
No. Yeah. That's about performance of like the fan and stuff running. I will say, Brad, to my knowledge, the base one does not have an SSD. I think it's flash memory.
Yeah.
I think
it's not technically. Yeah, it's a slightly different style of it's not actually. I think with the base one. But that being said, no, Nick, to that point, no. The fan is mainly about cooling all the stuff that's going on.
It's specifically the fact that he described it as like a whirring noise, and my brain I just tend to associate that with like a hard drive spinning.
I think it's just because the reason you probably associate with that is because the hard drive is a very small little platter, and this is a very small fan. So when that small fan like ramps up, that's where you get that kind of whirring noise. It's just because it's a tiny piece of probably like plastic.
It's the kind of thing
at
that
a high RPM. Yeah,
that's going to kick in when you're playing more. Like if you're
more
playing Elden
games.
Ring versus Vampire Survivors,
or games that aren't optimized as well. Like the weird thing, I'm playing Weird West, which for all intents and purposes, not a very demanding game, but my fans on my PC kick in like hardcore when I'm playing that game. And
a Eurojank game is often poorly optimized. So
is that a Eurojank game? I guess it is.
I mean, it seems like one. I don't know who made it, but
I mean,
this will be a perfect transition.
I guess you're right. It is a perfect transition. I was gonna pass it on to you for Ghostwire Tokyo, but I set myself up for a beautiful transition to Weird West. Let's talk about Weird West for a second. I don't have. I a ton to say about this yet, because for all intents and purposes, most of my time spent with Weird West so far has been like really trying to learn how to play this game, because it's not particularly easy. And maybe it's just I don't play a ton of games like this, but this is like it's an immersive sim. It's made by people who worked on Dishonored, but coming at it from a very different like perspective. It's more like it's almost like I guess it is isometric. But
Yeah, this
you
is
have,
Rafael Colantonio, right? The one of the co-creators of Dishonored.
Sure. Yes, that sounds right. I'm going to trust in Chris Davis there on that one. But yeah, it like my clock in this game says I've played like 2.5 hours, but I feel like I've spent like 4.5, like almost twice that, because it's one of those games where you, especially when you're still trying to figure it out, you're dying a lot and just reloading. Like, so I'm constantly, you have a quick save and quick load, so I'm constantly like, fuck, I fucked that up, quick load. Which is a lifesaver. It's probably the reason why I'm still playing this game, because the training wheel period on this game is quite honestly been a little frustrating. But when you kind of get through, when you break through that and you start to kind of wrap your head around the controls and see how the systems intermingle and like how the upgrade system works, and this game is really, really cool. The whole world is like super interactive. Like almost everything you see in the game you can interact with in some way, shape, or form. You walk up to a window, you can open the curtains, you can open the window, you can dive through the window, you can like pick up rugs and like look under the beds, and it's everything. Every single thing in this game you can touch. Like things react in a very realistic way. So like you can shoot like I don't know, like little kerosene lanterns. This is a Western obviously game, so it's but it's like a supernatural Western game. So there's like zombies and werewolves and shit. But you're kind of traversing this map and collecting bounties, and you're trying to figure out what happened to you, who killed your husband, because he dies in the very, very beginning of the game. So you're kind of, I don't know, like a revenge quest. But like everything in the game is super interactive. So like it does make me think back to like, it makes me think of a mix of Dishonored, but also I'm thinking about like when I was hearing y'all talk about Divinity Original Sin, how you can like use the elements, and also to some extent Breath of the Wild, where you're like creating fire, which will propagate across the ground and light other things on fire, and then enemies will react to that, and you can use that as a distraction, and and if you can kind of dream it, you can kind of make it happen here. I'm still trying to pick up on the nuances there and like get good at that kind of stuff. This footage probably makes me look real bad at this game because I'm really struggling with it. But so far I'm having a lot of fun with it. The problem, I think, the one thing that's kind of distracting to me is it has this like really nice presentation to it. It's a really cool concept, but like you can definitely see where there's some budget constraints coming in. There's not a lot of voice acting. There's a lot of like story and stuff that's like communicated to you with these like tiny text bubbles that pop up in the bottom left. And so you end up doing a lot of reading when it could have been like they could have been fully voiced, which is a bit frustrating. Like my first thought I was playing this, I was like, this reminds me of like Desperados 3, which was one of my favorite games the past few years. And but it doesn't have that same polish that made that game really, really great. Like it doesn't have voice acting, it doesn't have like the slick camera work and stuff, and it's a little glitchier. But like everything that's kind of under the hood running the game with all the systems, really cool. So like you're scouring this map. One of the things, like when you go into like an area or like a level, quote unquote, like when you kind of move to the edges of that area, it'll say, do you want to go back to the world map? But when you approach the edge of that area, it actually looks like the land turns into the edge of like a treasure map, or like a like the grassy knoll just kind of turns into like this piece of paper
grassy knoll.
Yeah,
you're Dallas.
Yes, the plains, the deserts, whatever environment you're in at any given moment. It just kind of
it doesn't generate
turns into
textbook
a map.
depository. Okay.
God damn it, guys, focus. It's just a really cool effect. and then you can transition back to the world map. And when you like travel between areas, you're like you're on a map and you're you're like moving in straight lines between different areas. But like the longer it takes, like as you're traversing the map, like time is passing, and the longer you take, the more chances you have of like running into like of being robbed or coming across
Like Fallout
weird events
or classic Fallout.
I guess
Ooh.
classic
Yeah.
Fallout. I didn't really play any
Ooh.
classic Fallout, so I'm not really.
Oh,
not
like
Yeah, like
Wasteland.
Fallout and
Like
Fallout.
Yeah, I
Wasteland.
didn't play Wasteland
Like
either, but this
Wasteland.
sounds like it's probably taking taking some notes from Wasteland or Fallout. But you know, it's cool. It's got some great personality, great charm. I love how the
Fallout
systems
doesn't look
work.
like this.
This seems like it is. It seems like a CRPG that doesn't have like, but the combat is like from like a real time. Like it doesn't. It seems like a CRPG that doesn't have RPG combat. It has like twin stick shooter combat.
Yeah, I mean, but yeah, you're right. But I mean, there are like all the weapons in the game have ratings and damage numbers, and everybody has health bars. So it's an action RPG in that sense. So you do have to be cognizant of like how strong the enemies are in a particular area and what you have equipped. And you have all these different perks you can find scattered throughout the world. Especially if you're doing a lot of exploration, you can find like amulets and special perks that you can assign to your character and stuff. So there's a lot of customization and a lot of cool treasure and loot to find, which is fun. It's just the one thing I keep coming back to is I just kind of wish the production value of like what's pushing me through
Game's kind of budget.
was it's a little budget, but like man, it's got it where it counts. I think
It's scrappy.
A lot of heart.
It's an immersive sim, but like the birth of immersive sims were not these super polished games. I mean, all of those games are a little rough around the edges.
I could be wrong.
Honestly.
I think this is the first game from this studio because I think this is the first game they've made since they broke the founders of the studio broke off from Arcane. So this is probably them kind of growing pains, like doing their first game without the biggest budget. But like it does kind of suck playing it, thinking like, God, if this had just a little bit bigger budget, this could be fucking amazing. Because I do keep, especially with the Western tropes and everything, I do keep drawing comparisons in my mind to Desperados 3, which had all of that polish and all of that great presentation that made it really shine. I think that's what's lacking here. But the game itself is fantastic. And here's the kicker, it's on Game Pass. So I'm playing it on Game Pass, and it's
Nice.
fantastic.
I wonder if it's like if it's like Eurojank unoptimized to the point where it's probably not going to be great on a Steam Deck.
I mean, maybe that's what that's what I was saying. I was surprised by how hard my PC sounds like it's trying to play this game when it doesn't look like it's that demanding. It's weird. It's probably not super. There was an update today, but my even after I did that big update, it was still not optimized that great. And there's a few glitches where I suddenly my character shot across the map for some reason, or I got stuck in a doorway or whatever, and then had to reload. But not the most polished, but if you can look past those things, this is definitely worth trying, especially if you have Game Pass. I'm constantly surprised by how frequently I have Game Pass stuff lined up.
No offense, but I want you to play more than 2.5 hours.
I am playing.
I've heard that you play as multiple characters as you the story progresses. You'll wrap up one story and you'll play a very different character that has and that the world will see very differently. So the way you sort of navigate that world has to be completely different. Kind of
I do intend to play more for sure.
Kind of like how you play different races in Vampire Bloodlines or whatever, right?
Yeah. No, I definitely have every intention of playing more than 2 hours of this. I feel like I kind of know what you're alluding to.
Oh.
I think I did kind of I had to kind of admit to myself that I think I need to put down triangle strategy. So
yeah,
I did.
Well, you made that decision 3 weeks ago, Nick. So
I know, but I had kept telling myself no, I haven't done it. I haven't put it down. I'm gonna keep playing it, and just never feeling the draw to play more of that game. And I think a lot of it had to do
This is a game you bought and you owned a physical version of?
Yeah. I'm probably gonna trade that and Ghostwire Tokyo in and
damn, Ghostwire Tokyo. So you're not even gonna go back to Ghostwire?
Really?
I don't think so. Yeah. I mean, I played like 11 hours of it, and this is a good transition again.
11 hours. Oh.
Yeah, I played
fair
a
enough.
pretty good chunk of it, but
I don't know why I'm always skeptical of your hour counts, but I guess you do keep track of them.
I do keep track of them, and I'm not
I'm
sitting
not
here
saying you're
claiming
like
they're
Chris
the
Davis
most
bad,
accurate.
but you know.
I'm not sitting
Did
here
you really
claiming
play
I'm the most
4
accurate.
hours of?
Wait, 44 hours of what?
No, 4 hours of triangle strategy.
3.5, 4, somewhere in there. Like the Switch is harder for me to gauge because the hour count in the system is not super accurate either.
Sure.
But I was also measuring it by the number of lunch hours that I sunk into playing that game, which was about.
Well, maybe you were spending a little too much
bit
time on your applesauce and not so much on the game one lunch or something, you know.
Applesauce. Huh? That's what you think I take with me to lunch, huh?
What's wrong with applesauce?
I like applesauce. Applesauce is pretty good.
Who doesn't like applesauce?
It kind of just made me want some applesauce, actually. Yeah, Ghostwire Tokyo. I've decided to kind of put that down. While Chris Davis has like given himself entirely to this game.
I gave myself entirely. This is my 3rd platinum trophy game. I put 32 hours into it.
This is like this game is like so weird because I feel like people either love it or despise it, and then the people in the middle kind of just peter out. You know what I mean?
That's not what I heard. I heard people really like it, but they understand why people don't. That's what the positive end. That's what I hear. I don't hear anybody saying "fucking game of the year." It's like, oh, this is really clicking for me, but I totally understand why I got some, 6s and 7s.
Yeah,
personally that's what I'm hearing from like people who are pretty enthusiastic about it.
I mean, I think that's where I fall, but I also like made the decision because I was like, if I let myself play this game, like really play it, I know the kind of person I am. I'm gonna, even if I'm like not super enjoying it, I'm gonna like be drawn to all of these like pointless, collection things. I'm just gonna be obsessed with finding everything in the map. Because that's the way I play open world games like this. But like every second I do that, it's taking away from Elden Ring time.
I want to be clear. Well, hey, Elden Ring time is Elden Ring time. I get it, but you're like, I'm returning this shit. And when you stopped it, you said you thought it was too anime. So
I did say that. I mean, that is mostly just me admitting that like the subject matter of this game is not my bag.
I feel like it would be right up your alley, honestly.
It's really not.
Tell me why you like this game.
Yeah, please do.
I think this is a really good game. I think that the points that people have about kind of the side activities and pacing, they are legitimate complaints. I think that this game drags on when it comes to completing side content. But the core story and what you're doing throughout it, I really like it. I had a lot of fun.
I played it for 10 hours and I was
Wait, you said 11 hours like
Shut
5 minutes
up,
ago.
Brad.
That's
it's going to be 9 hours and 5 minutes.
By the end of this conversation, it's going to be 8 hours.
If he played it for 11, he technically also played it for 10, so he's not wrong.
Okay, no.
My point is, I sunk enough hours into it that like I knew that this wasn't really going to be my thing. Like the main story of this game did not capture my attention at all.
Well, let me ask you this. You said you gave me an hour count, but where did you stop? Like, what chapter did you stop in the game?
Oh, like 4? Chapter 4, I think.
4?
Maybe?
Really?
4 or 5? I don't remember. I mean, I remember fighting. Oh God, I went into like a subway, I think, and I fought this weird. Dude, this. I don't know.
Nick, I can't believe you haven't played more of this game that you didn't enjoy.
I don't want to hear. I don't want to hear any more about Nick's opinions. I want to hear Chris Davis's.
Yeah, fuck Nick. Tell us, Chris Davis.
I mean, I was asking because I wanted to gauge like exactly where you stopped, because there is a certain point of return that happens at the end of chapter 4, where you theoretically can come back to the map, but why would you? This is, again,
you didn't get there.
Okay, then you definitely weren't on chapter 4. You were probably on maybe like 2 or 3. So you still hadn't experienced a bunch of the story. And there's a lot of the story, it's I really like it.
So, but here's the thing is I didn't experience a ton of the story, but I certainly experienced enough to just know that like it wasn't blowing my skirt up. You know what I mean? Like I didn't, because a lot of times when I play like very story driven games, I feel that pull to come back to it because I want to know what happens next. I'm invested in the characters. I didn't get any of that.
Yeah, that's one of the unfortunate things about this game is that you do have to go read through documents and listen to audio logs to really get the nuances of the characters and exactly what's going on throughout it.
And I really did not like the way side missions worked, like how all the side missions are given to you by these like really pointless like ghost characters.
Pointless ghost characters, like
I mean they're just like they're all the same. They're just floating little like ethereal ghost characters. They tell you to go into this building and something's gonna happen. You go into the building, something weird happens, and you go back out, and then it's just like, oh yeah, back to exploring the open world. I don't know. It just didn't.
I mean, the way they present these side quests is that, yeah, the vast majority of them are you find a spirit in the world. They have a woe that's keeping them from, ascending. And so you go try to figure out what it is and what is haunting that portion of Shibuya.
Davis, you platinum this?
Yes, I platinum this.
This is your footage?
This is my footage.
You're in a dark house?
This is one of the side quests.
You know you have a flashlight in this game, right?
I didn't discover that until like 20 hours in.
Oh my god.
You discovered it and forgot about it again.
I mean, at no point, this game is a very bright game, so I never felt the need to use it. And it's
Sure.
very rare in which you're actually item hunting for something on the ground that when you get close enough is you can already see the icon for it. So you know it's something you pick up.
Real quick. So like I read 2 or 3 reviews of this before I played it, and like almost all those reviews I read were like trying to give examples of like side missions that they liked. And almost every single one of them mentioned the hoarder house.
Well, this is the hoarder house.
I wasn't looking at the screen, and when you were talking about the side mission, and he said the dark house, I was like, is his motherfucker in the hoarding house? And I pulled up, and sure enough, you're in the fucking hoarder house. And I'm like, is that like? And that was of all the side missions that I did, that was my favorite too.
I mean, this wasn't pre-planned. I started recording
This was
footage.
talked about because it's an early game.
It's very suspect to me because nothing else I played in the game was anywhere near as compelling as the hoarding house, and even then, I don't think it even holds a candle to the most creative, interesting stuff in the Evil Within 2. Like nothing that I played in 12 hours of this game was reminiscent of that feeling I got exploring the world in Evil Within 2.
I would agree with you there. I think that the world that they built in Ghostwire, it's so interesting for how authentic it feels to Tokyo, where it's supposed to feel. Sure. But at the same time, it lacks a lot of like character in the tiny spots when you really take a magnifying glass to it.
No, I certainly agree. It has a good sense of personality to it that comes across in like its art style and its enemy types and like the bright and exuberant combat animations and stuff. That stuff is really cool. But like when you look under the hood, it's all very kind of dull.
Like Pimp My Ride. Hey, let me ask you something.
Pimp My Ride.
Yeah, I hear that those vehicles, they're not very good vehicles to drive. Anyways.
Wait, are we talking about the game or are we talking about Pimp My Ride still?
Pimp My Ride.
Look,
he has to be.
Okay.
So, Chris Davis, let me ask you something.
Okay.
There's a lot of like open world shit you do, like side quests and stuff, things to collect. Is there a not a loot lust or anything, but like, do you have a real desire to like fill out your like skill tree and stuff? Like the rewards you're getting for things, is that stuff you really want?
There
even
are
if
some like skill trees that I do think you want to prioritize and invest in. There's none that
sure.
really just call out like, "Oh my god, I need this immediately."
I have to have that. Yeah.
Yeah.
None of
But
that.
you will find things like, being able to stun an enemy for double time or being able to cut in half the time to break an enemy core to kill them. That really you really feel them once you've gotten the upgrade, and it's enjoyable.
Every conversation I hear about this game, even from people who like it or kind of don't like it, is that they acknowledge all these flaws, but they're like, well, I can't. I mean, I keep playing it. I keep playing it, and I'm wondering, maybe there's something there that's like driving people that people are really not really explaining all that well.
I do think if the story resonates with you, it's going to make a huge difference. It didn't resonate with me, but that's mostly just because of it just doesn't speak to my
but
taste
it's
in
not
things.
the story. I don't hear people really talking up the story. Like it's more like the atmosphere, the look.
It's very much the atmosphere. It's very much the look. The story, again, it's not the best Tango has put it together.
Playing games for atmosphere. If a game has atmosphere, I don't give a shit about most of the other things in the game.
But Nick, you have a certain type of atmosphere you really like.
Excuse me?
Like you know what I'm talking about. You like a dark, foggy, traditional horror atmosphere.
And you do get that later in the game too, by the way.
Oh.
Dude, like Red Dead Redemption 2 is a game that I love because of its atmosphere. It's not always about horror.
Sure.
Like it's just like a strong sense of atmosphere can be anything. This game has a strong sense of atmosphere. It just I don't know what it is. It just didn't. Maybe honestly, you know what? If Elden Ring didn't exist, maybe I'd be in love with this fucking game. Okay, but every time I'm playing this game, I'm thinking to myself, really let myself fall behind in Elden Ring.
That's fine too. I mean that's like now you're finally making sense.
Brad, to your earlier question about skill trees, there is one skill that I unlocked very late in the game that I really wish I would have done earlier, and it's really fucking good. So this game
is it the Tengu one? The summon Tengu?
Yes.
Yeah, I know about it. So let's not get into the weeds. I know about it.
Well, but I mean, I want to set it up for Nick because it's really fucking good. I don't know if Nick can unlock it.
You create your own. It's you create your own.
He knows about it too.
Grapple points.
Yeah,
I mean, I know about it because I saw it in the menu, and I assumed that's what it is because Tengus are what allow you to like grapple, so you can create your own grapple points.
Yeah, but the reason I bring it up is because you can appreciate the verticality in this game just from like regular set Tengu points and just kind of gliding over the map. You don't appreciate the scale and just how vertical it feels when you finally unlock that ability.
Can you like sprint towards that ability?
And yeah, you can.
It's worth it?
You absolutely can.
Okay.
There's enough freedom to let you do it, get there in your own time.
I would say if you collect enough spirits and you just work on side content, you can unlock that in probably an hour or two.
Did you like the combat in this?
I do like it, but I have some issues with it. I really like the idea of what they're going with the key blasts and the kind of finger gun kind of motions that you do.
The finger guns, yeah.
The finger guns, finger blasting.
It's cool. I just wish that was like more.
I wish there was more variety to it.
There's no skill to it. There's no trick. You're not doing anything special with the controller.
It's unfortunate. Like this stuff. When I look at this game, I'm like, this is a game I want to play, and then everyone says, not really. I can't decide if I want to play this or Stranger of Paradise. They're both like 7s on Metacritic, right?
That just seems rude.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing. And I pointed this out earlier, is that Ghostwire Tokyo or Stranger of Paradise is like, oh, this is like a 7. And like Ghostwire Tokyo is, oh, this is like a 7. You know? And those are very different 7s. And I feel like maybe the first one is the one that surprised people and is like stupid but like surprisingly cool. And this one seems more like the disappointing 7. And
I will say I love that Tango Gameworks has really committed to like creating new worlds, and this is a far cry from Evil Within, but they're both really compelling and visually interesting worlds. I just don't think this lands as successfully as Evil Within did in terms of its gameplay.
No, I absolutely agree.
I think Evil Within is fun to play and has like good level design and stuff. I haven't heard anybody say anything about level design in this, and it must be because it's like some open world. Like are there like main story missions that have more interesting level design than like side quests?
Oh yeah,
Like,
no, a lot of the main missions have a lot of non-Euclidean architecture and kind of like spooky level design going on.
Okay.
Spooky.
It's this game won't very rarely try to scare you appropriately.
All I'm saying is they set a pretty high bar for themselves with trying to fuck with you with like just dynamic horror stuff in the Evil Within.
There's a lot of
I don't think this lives up to it. But
there's a lot of the level design in this game that takes place outside the main map in kind of demonic areas. One of the coolest things I enjoyed about the game, which was also kind of a hell for me later on when I was trying to 100% the game, is that there are random events that can spawn on the main avenues throughout Shibuya in which there will be a demon parade. Yeah. And I thought that was just like a visual thing. No, that's a fucking gameplay thing. Because as they're parading through the street, all the lights are shutting off and it gets really dark and foggy. And then if you're close to them, they can spot you and they drag you into probably the biggest arena fights you can find in the game.
Yeah, no. So
arena fights.
I'm glad you brought this up because I was like, oh, this is cool. I found a demon parade. I was like, this is actually some really dope ass shit. It's giving me chills. And then I got too close to it and it sucked me into an arena fight. And then I was like, I hate this.
Can I ask you guys something?
Yeah.
No.
Kind of bouncing off of what Brad said about this game being a 7, but like it's only a 7.
Yes, a disappointing 7.
When we first saw this game, when it was first announced, and in all of the material that has been released between then and launch, did you guys think it was not gonna be a 7?
Okay, Crispy. First of all,
I'm really curious. I am really curious. What is it?
I think the Evil Within 1 and 2.
It was because it's Grasshopper Manufacturer? Like,
no, this
is
Tango,
not Grasshopper.
Tango.
Or I mean Tango.
I really like both Evil Within games, and I think a lot of people like Evil Within 2 at the very least. So I think they were already like a really promising studio, and like. Yeah, but anytime I put eyes on this game, even now, I'm like, this game looks like cool, some shit I want to play.
I'll say from my opinion.
So it is a.
From my opinion, I really like the Evil Within 1. I love the Evil Within 2. I think the last 3 to 4 hours of the Evil Within 2 is some of the best of the last generation. So
but that's it, right? I mean, that's it. You guys really like the Evil Within, and this is the next thing that company's doing.
No, you the way you started it.
I didn't know what this was. I will say this. I think that first trailer they released for this, I think this game went through some serious changes between that first trailer and this. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised at all if the I can't remember her name. Everyone is spooky. She departed the project pretty early on. I wouldn't be surprised if her departure had something to do with like creative differences with what this game was because that first trailer still to me communicates different vibes than this ultimately.
I don't know if I see a lot of this game in that first trailer.
Yeah,
I do.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't really know what to tell you other than the Evil Within 1 and 2 are 9s for me. Tango Gameworks is an incredible studio so far, and this just looked wildly creative, and that was for me was enough. I didn't know
I think
the story wasn't going to resonate with me at all.
I don't know. I just think that's. I don't know. I'm just having a hard time because I don't see where the incredibly creative part comes in because the stuff that looked.
And it's all visual. It's all visual.
Yeah, That's what I'm saying.
People didn't start complaining until they put
right,
hands on this game.
But you're also talking to somebody who is like visuals can go a long way for me. I have no problem admitting.
No, I know, but I don't know. I mean, it sounds like I'm just shitting on this thing, and I'm really not trying to. It's just
we've had this conversation before anybody played it. Remember? I
am so. I know, but I'm just so like kind of flabbergasted by the like surprise to this game. The underwhelming.
Maybe I'm not surprised. I mean, it's more of just like it could have gone either way, and this is the way it went.
People were expecting.
I'm not super upset about that because I knew a long time ago it could have gone this way. But I did have hopes for it. I did certainly have high hopes for it.
Maybe people were expecting it to be 7s, but they were expecting it to be that more enthusiastic 7, and not
also we didn't even realize this was like open world.
A more enthusiastic 7 is an 8.
Yeah.
No. Stranger of Paradise is no 8.
But you know what I'm saying? Like I didn't even realize this was open world until about 2 months ago. Yeah. Right? They kept that close to the chest until very late in promoting it, and I'm just wondering if like this game probably would have, in this case, as someone who loves open world games, this game I feel like may have been better suited to being a more linear experience. I feel because that's what I was expecting. Honestly, I was like the moment I saw that Tango Gameworks was suddenly making like a fully open world game, I was like, this could go any direction because they don't really have a lot of experience doing open world stuff. Like they dabbled with it in Evil Within 2,
and that was the best part. That was the best. And then they made a generic open world.
Maybe they should have made Evil Within 3 and just done the whole thing like that.
I mean, this game started as the Evil Within 3.
Yeah,
I know.
Did it really?
Yeah,
it did. Yeah.
Do we know why?
At least according to Tango, that's what they're saying.
I think this game is the way it is.
Direction?
I think this game is no, we don't.
We don't know.
But I think this game is the way that. But they did say it did start as Evil Within 3. I think this game is the way it is because they got a lot of positive reception to the stuff they were experimenting with in Evil Within 2, like almost universal. Like those levels were like, dude, this shit is rad. I think they were like, okay, let's make an open world game, and they looked at the open world games in the industry, saw that they were all like these bloated 60-hour games, and they're like, well, I guess we got to try to like, we can't. Sort of, right? Yeah. Like, and they made bad decisions, you know. Like,
dude, those other games came out when like Skyrim was the biggest thing in the world. I don't understand what's different now. Out. I know, but that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't understand how things are that different now than they were when they were doing.
I mean, I think it's a case of them looking at you know their.
Well, they weren't making that kind of game before.
They were looking at like they were.
I know. I'm sorry. I just thought you were saying that because of the fact that everyone was releasing large, long.
No, I just think they were like, well, how do we do this? And they looked at Ubisoft games and they made a bad one of those.
Mm-hmm. Oxymoron, am I right? Oh wait,
there are better versions.
Double affirmative.
Yeah, you're right. Double affirmative.
You know, I do. One of the most baffling things to me is that, like, remember that moment in the Evil Within 2 where you walked into that house seamlessly, right? And then all of a sudden there was a ghost hunting you, and it was really dope. Yeah. Like every time you open a door in this game, it fades to black. It's like everything feels super static and like clunky, but like they've done open world movement and transitions better. Like they didn't just take what they did in Evil Within 2 and try to blow it up into something bigger. Like certain aspects of that have like taken noticeable downgrades, and it almost feels like they didn't have time to like figure out a way to like smoothly transition between outside to indoor.
It's a big open world, and that's something they've never really done before.
Yeah, I wouldn't put it against them for the way.
I mean,
that's just an example. Like, to me, everything about
700-person team to build an open world for them, like Ubisoft
everything about the way this game feels when you're moving and looking around and like moving through the environment, it just feels stiff. Yeah. And one thing I will say about like Ubisoft open world games, like Far Cry being perhaps the closest example because it was a first person open world game, is like as predictable as it is from a design standpoint, like everything feels fluid. Like you have a good sense of motion, like a good
What's
sense.
What's the last Japanese first person shooter you played that felt good?
Binary Domain. Oh wait, first person shooter?
Yeah.
Have I
Let me
ever
ask you
played?
this: have you ever played a Japanese
Yeah.
first person shooter? Here's what I don't understand: this game controls like shit. I think it feels like shit. Like the first person controls feel wrong. Like the aiming, the camera, it feels like they've never done this before. But what I don't understand is Tango has always been owned by Bethesda. They're now owned by Microsoft. Couldn't their Western studios who make, I don't know, Doom and fucking Halo give them some like first person cameras control support or something? It's the same company. How did
you'd think,
they
but
go like this feels like shit? How do we make it feel better? You know,
I think shit is a
I
little too harsh, honestly.
I
I think the game. I think one of the main problems with the game and the combat is that there is no aim assist provided. So you really kind of have to lead your shots
Halo
and
figured
figure
that out in 2001.
I mean, yeah,
I
but
do think it is odd that Chris Davis is the one defending the first person feel of this game.
Well, I mean, I think it's just wrong. I mean, this is the kind of game where you could fuck with the controls and the settings all day and it never feels right. This feels like a console first person shooter that came out pre Halo in terms of controls.
That's too harsh. I disagree there entirely.
Okay, guys, we all disagree. We don't have to keep going in circles on that. But I do think that like the way the first person shooter comparisons are maybe not what their first priority was. Like they didn't set out to make a first person shooter. I just don't think that's what they were focusing their attention on.
I fine tune aim with my feet, not with my reticle. And that's like some 64 shooter shit.
Gotcha. Yeah.
I fine tune aim with my feet.
By moving your character to aim your gun instead of moving the reticle. If you want to get it right where you need it to be, you actually move your entire body instead of actually slightly adjusting.
I thought he was like going into a settings menu and then using his feet on the controller to like. I was like, I don't understand.
No, I'm moving my body to aim instead of my reticle because of the game feel.
I think we've covered a lot of ground here. Our reaction to this game range from just flat out not liking it to loving it. So it's just one of those games. What can I say? It's like if people want to like us to make a recommendation for this game, it's like I think it's hard for us as a group to make a recommendation. Chris Davis certainly recommends it. I wouldn't not recommend it. I guess I would say make sure you like anime.
You're returning the game. You don't recommend it.
I don't like the story. I don't like the story. Like you're talking to the guy who adores Days Gone. Like you know what I mean?
Okay.
Like
no,
the story is a big deal to me, and I didn't.
But then you don't recommend the gameplay either.
I mean, but I didn't hate it. I didn't hate the gameplay. What do you want to say?
It's like you stopped the movie halfway through, and now you're recommending the movie to people. And you don't want to finish the movie. You don't want to finish the movie.
But that's because I don't like the movie. That's because I don't like the fucking.
Well, then why would you recommend it?
Doesn't like it.
Oh God,
hey,
you're missing.
Your
metaphor doesn't make sense. Your metaphor doesn't make sense because games have two components. They have the visual, like you're watching a story, you're partaking in a story, and you're also controlling what's happening on the screen. In a movie, it's just literally one thing. So like one of these things I love or I like, it's okay, and the other thing I just didn't speak to me. So it's like, what do you mean to say? It's not like a movie where I just didn't like the story, which is the whole point. You know what I mean? If that makes sense at all?
Would it help convince you, Nick, to allude to the fact that later in the story, you kind of get those Evil Within
spoiler alert.
Like,
I don't know what he's going to say, but spoiler the fuck alert right now.
I'm not spoiling anything. I'm just saying that, remember in the Evil Within 2 when you start, it's the final act and the world is falling apart and you're just so close to rescuing your daughter? You kind of get that emotional investment going on. You kind of get that in this.
Oh, that's fair. I'm just saying the main character's motivation in the 10 hours that I played was not compelling to me at all. It felt and I know Brad harped at me for calling it too, because I did specifically in Discord I said it was too anime for me, and that's because the story being told in this game felt like it could have just as easily been told in an anime format, like watching an anime, and I'm not a big fan of that, to be honest, in most cases. So it just didn't do it for me. And honestly, there's also there is like a prequel anime to this, I think, right? So like that shouldn't come as a surprise that like this resembles an anime.
I think it's a animated graphic novel.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely leaning into that type of thing, which is fine if you're into it, which I'm just not. There are very few animes that have like really spoke to me and like got my attention, and this just
we don't have to get into anime,
wasn't it?
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're
I
gonna take a break.
I think you could watch like a Satoshi Kon movie or whatever, but whatever.
A what?
Damn.
Let's take a break.
Let's not.
We've talked about Ghostwire Tokyo a lot. Let's take a break. When we come back, we got a bunch of news. New Tomb Raider, new Max Payne remakes, Kingdom Hearts 4.
Don't say new Tomb
Return
Raider.
to Monkey Island.
I mean, it is a new Tomb Raider.
We got some stuff to talk about when we get back. So if you're watching us live or listening, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the show, everybody. We got a lot of news. It's been 2 weeks since our last recording, and there's been a lot of big announcements in the past 2 weeks that I feel like we should probably talk about. I don't know where we want to start announcement-wise. I feel maybe
Kingdom Hearts.
This would have technically been from the week before, so I'll start with this one. They announced a new Tomb Raider game, but not in the traditional sense, because they announced it as part of the Unreal Engine 5. They did this launch event talking about Unreal Engine 5 was now available to developers on a mass scale. Like kind of like everybody is free to use it now. And part of this was showing off projects that are in development on UE5. And Crystal Dynamics announced a new Tomb Raider is in development on Unreal Engine 5 as part of this. Brad seems to be his...
Because this is like the most... I mean, this is the lamest... Like, this isn't even an announcement. They're just like, by the way, we're working on it. It's just like, who gives a shit? There's no excitement here. Of course they're working on a new Tomb Raider.
Well, no. I mean...
They said the name.
Say, of course.
Tomb Raider. Of
course. It's... There is something there is a conversation to be had here. Because sure, we are going to get eventually, there's going to be an official announcement, like an unveiling with a trailer, and that's when it is like a real thing that we can talk about at length, right? But
sure.
The reason it's interesting to me is that Crystal Dynamics is just coming off of doing the Avengers, which was, as we all know, at least I think, financially speaking, was not a success for them, right? It seemed like it...
I can't quote that.
I don't have the numbers in front of me, but at least it does not seem like it was a particularly strong outing for Crystal Dynamics, right? So they have confirmed that they are now back working on Tomb Raider, which there's two competing thoughts I'm having in my head, which is, one, Crystal Dynamics is back on Tomb Raider. That last one was not Crystal Dynamics, it was Eidos Montreal. And maybe this is their chance, again, to kind of reinvent the franchise, maybe even take it back to its roots.
Maybe.
As opposed to the
There
last...
was one more bit of news that came with this, though.
Sure. Well, what are you referring to? As far as Tomb Raider goes?
Yes. And as part of this announcement, Jeff Ross, who was the director on Days Gone...
Days Gone, yeah.
is now going to be the design director on this project.
Sure, but like, I even as someone who loves Days Gone, I don't really know what to tell you other than he made a game that I really like. But like, I don't know what that means for Tomb Raider.
Can I say though that like I hate when like I just miss the theatrics of like a game announcement, and this is so like like I think of like
you're still
what they're
gonna get that moment.
I feel like
that moment is
what they're
going
doing with
come.
Starfield and the new Zelda, where they're showing like a few seconds here and there of random bullshit, and it's like you think back to the unveiling of Skyrim and Twilight Princess, and they're like the most epic moments in the history of gaming, like unveilings, right?
The very first Skyrim trailer didn't really show anything at all. The first gameplay trailer did, but there was definitely a trailer beforehand that didn't show much.
Sure, the teaser trailer was pretty hype.
That teaser trailer was hype, but you're right. But I miss this shit. Like, instead of little dev divers, like, look at this fucking character model that we're working on, or this fucking helmet. You know, like, come on, God, that stuff sucks.
Regarding Tomb Raider, like that moment,
did it with Cyberpunk.
This is purely because they were tying it into Unreal Engine 5, and they want people to be excited about the future of Unreal Engine. Like they tied these little quick mentions, whatever. You don't have
people are bouncing off the walls.
You don't need to comment on. I mean, other than to say, you know, it's kind of lame, but like that moment will come. We'll get a trailer. It'll be a moment. It'll probably be sprung on us in a moment when we're not really expecting it. So it'll be hype. Who the fuck knows? The reason I thought this was interesting was that Crystal Dynamics is back on Tomb Raider. And part of me is like, well, now is their chance to kind of maybe reinvent the franchise again, go back to its roots maybe, or maybe even do that kind of open world thing that they were talking about before the 2013 reboot. Whatever. I don't know what that means exactly. But then I'm thinking that, like, following the Avengers, which was kind of a failure, a critical and financial failure, it seems, is this just them saying, okay, now we have to do something safe, and like they're going to go right back to doing another one of these Tomb Raider games that they've done, these three, like,
probably.
You know, Shadow of the Tomb
My
Raider.
guess is that they probably have like multiple teams, and this is just one of the things they're doing, especially because Avengers was probably, they had to hire up pretty big for Avengers, so now they're
No, I will say this.
Apparently,
the Jeff Frost thing is. Oh, go ahead, Crispy.
I was just gonna say the Square Enix president Yosuke Matsuda addressed Marvel's Avengers, calling the game's performance disappointing and blaming Crystal Dynamics in a sense by claiming that the studio was not a good fit for a live service game.
That's par for the course with Square Enix, though, is they love throwing their Western studios under the bus. Like they set expectations way too fucking high, and like they've never lived up to those for some reason.
You know,
and then
at least
Babylon's Fall, did y'all hear today, is now below 10 concurrent players.
Damn.
Oh my God.
Who are those 10 people? Do they know each other? Are they all having fun?
That is ooh. But you know, at least
is one of them just somebody idling the game?
Yeah.
I mean, at least he's like being honest. Like, I mean, I didn't think Crystal Dynamics seemed like a very good fit for that kind of game either. So at least they're maybe recognizing that they made a mistake and putting it back on something that they're good at. But the Jeff Ross thing is interesting.
I could see Square Enix like selling Crystal Dynamics, or you know, letting them go, like letting someone buy them. You know, kind of like, remember what happened with IO? Like IO. Like Hitman, like they were doing good things with Hitman, and Square Enix was like, "This wasn't 8 million units."
I could totally see Microsoft swooping in and buying Crystal Dynamics from Square Enix.
I mean, Crystal Dynamics is already on contract with Microsoft to help develop Perfect Dark, so
which is weird.
It is weird, but again, this Jeff Ross thing, you're right, Chris Davis, I think is interesting in that, because I still remember back when we were talking about Tomb Raider in 2013 before it was officially unveiled. And they had like design docs that suggested it was kind of going to be some like open world, like on this like island, prehistoric island kind of thing.
I mean, I heard about that long before their latest reboot trilogy.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. Like before we even knew what the reboot trilogy was, that was kind of the rumor.
I was excited about that one.
Yeah, no, I was super excited about it too. And like, I'm wondering if hiring someone like Jeff Ross, who has recently developed an open world game, is maybe a sign that maybe that's the direction they're kind of moving this time. I don't know. I'm excited that a new Tomb Raider's. I'm excited specifically that Crystal Dynamics is working on Tomb Raider again.
Can I just throw out a crazy thought of something that would make me excited about playing a Tomb Raider game?
Do it.
And I don't know, like you know, I don't really know much about the franchise. Maybe I'm speaking out my ass here, but could you imagine a Tomb Raider game that like really embraced that like 1930s like globe-trotting adventure, like Doc Savage kind of vibe?
Yeah, but the classic ones were definitely more like that.
Yeah. Right. But like, what if you had a Tomb Raider game that took place in that like time period?
Oh, that would be
cool.
You think
she's like flying like a big like double prop plane and crashes, and she's got like World War I era pistols and stuff. Like,
is that maybe what they're doing with the new Indiana Jones game that they're working on?
Machine Games.
Oh yeah, I forgot they're doing that. Yeah, so they can't do that. I'm pretty sure I'm just excited for Indiana Jones, I guess.
Hey, I would settle for dual pistols from any era.
No, I know. I was just. I mean, that has nothing to do with anything, and I just thought that
I
was
like where your
weird.
head's at though, because
Like that seems like such a slam dunk to me for Tomb Raider. It's
no,
like
it
really
is.
just go to the source, you know?
Yeah, no, I think that would be really cool. I mean, I'm one of these people that I liked that trilogy, but like I don't want them to make another one like that. I want them to go back to the drawing board, do something new, or at least do something that harkens back to the original, maybe in a
Well, everyone
Super-
forgets this is the second time Crystal Dynamics has rebooted Tomb Raider, and if they do it again, it'll be the third time.
Yeah. Fair enough. All right. So next up, announcement-wise, a couple quick things that I think we can probably rattle off really quickly before we get to that big one. They announced a return to Monkey Island, kind of suddenly and surprisingly.
Oh, yeah.
Out of nowhere.
And all the old people went, woo!
No, all the people who weren't playing Japanese games in the 90s, Nick,
that's true.
they're excited.
Fuck off.
Too many Japanese games, Nick.
It's not just the original creators. It's they're doing like the very popular, we're going to pretend all the sequels that people didn't like as much don't exist, and this is the sequel to the last really good one.
They're doing a requel.
A requel, which is popular these days, I guess. Mm-hmm. This is going to be Monkey Island 3 officially, I think.
That's cool though, right? I mean, I have no history with this franchise, but you know what? Maybe this would be a good candidate for the Revival Club. I don't know.
I mean, any classic point and click adventure game would probably be worth it. But you're more of like a longest journey kind of guy. You're not going to like the funny shit.
No, Nick would be more into like putt-putt.
What?
Isn't that what that was called? What was that? What was that? Yeah, am I crazy?
I like the name
putt-putt.
I like putt. Are we talking about golf?
No,
it wasn't golf. It was not golf.
I like putt-putt.
Yeah, putt-putt.
What is this?
It's a point-and-click adventure game.
I think Nick would be more of a Sam and Max or maybe a Full Throttle kind of guy.
No, I'm telling you, he's not gonna like any of the classic funny stuff. Something like The Longest Journey. I think
Braham knows what I'm talking about. It's a little purple cartoon car.
Oh, that little fucking car looks familiar.
Yeah, that's
little piece of shit.
You don't give me enough credit.
You're not listening to me. I'm like literally suggesting a legendary, beloved point-and-click adventure game, and you think I'm steering you in the wrong direction.
No. Which one are you recommending officially?
The Longest Journey.
Is that?
Okay. It is a beloved point-and-click adventure game.
Okay, that's fine.
There were
fine.
two
But people are talking about like I don't appreciate.
That's not a bunch of like jokes.
But people are saying like I don't like acting like I don't appreciate humor. I loved Psychonauts. Okay, come on, give me some fucking credit here. I love Double Fine.
Sure, I mean sure, but you liked it because of its atmosphere.
And the writing was on point. And
you're right.
Some fun ass gameplay.
You're right. Psychonauts is funny, but like classic like LucasArts point and click adventure games, they're like, fucking jokes. Like it's like they're doing bits and stuff, and there's a lot of like jokes, running jokes, and it's kind of a dorkier kind of humor, which some people really love. Weird people. But I don't think it's your style of humor.
Do you
there's
think
like puns and shit?
Is Monkey Island something I should keep my eyes on?
Honestly, no.
No, I was hoping.
But
fine, fine. Anyways, not really a lot to say there, but that came out of nowhere.
I mean, install fencing or whatever was cool, but
it came out of nowhere. And somebody brought up a tweet from oh my god, what's his name? Help me out.
Ron Gilbert.
Right? Yes, Ron Gilbert. A tweet from like years ago where he said, "If I ever announce Escape from Monkey or Return to Monkey Island 3, it's going to be on April Fool's Day." And he posted, I think this was announced on the 2nd of April, so like right after April Fool's Day. People were like, "Oh my god, he basically did it." Yeah. So, anyways, that's a thing. And then the other surprise announcement that kind of came out of nowhere this week, which I'm personally very excited for, is Remedy announced they're doing a remake of Max Payne 1 and 2, like a AAA from the ground up, full blown remake of Max Payne 1 and 2 together in a single product.
That's cool, but that's weird. What is that?
That's
Those are
fucking
old
cool, man.
games. Those
I
are
know,
old
which
games.
is, but like, and like they're old, but like those games are games that like I love the idea of them. But like they're just a little too clunky or a little too, I don't even know how to describe it. There's something that's preventing me from like really getting into them.
It's an old PC action game. I mean, it's weird. Like I feel like I have fondness for the way they play and feel, you know? So like to modernize that part of it almost seems kind of like,
man, but I love the idea. Like I love the idea of that, like the noir like presentation and the story. Like I'm into it.
Sure, but there's like
Remedy's,
demons
I love
and shit.
modern
Like
Remedy.
I don't know what that's gonna be. I don't. It's very strange.
Love modern Remedy.
I love modern Remedy.
Love's a strong word, Nick.
No,
are you sure?
Alan
You
Wake
might,
is my top
you know,
10
as you
games
get
of all
older,
time, bitch.
you might
That's
meet
true.
other game studios that you really truly love.
Time Cop. He liked Time Cop a lot.
I loved Time Cop.
Did Time Cop make your top 10 that year? Out of curiosity?
Yes, Quantum Break made my top 10 that year.
Quantum
it was like my number
Break.
9.
God, it's a hard name to remember.
I love.
Okay, I know. I believe you. I believe you. Although
There's
Control was your number 10 that year.
It was. They're slowly creeping backwards because you got Alan Wake and then you got Quantum Break, which just barely creeped into my top. It was like number 9, and then Control I think was my number 10. So like, I don't know. It doesn't bode super well for this Max Payne remake. But man, I'm excited. I'm excited to play Max Payne 1 and 2 again.
I know you've bounced off of Max Payne 1 and 2, so
Can we?
But hey,
can we talk about the fact that this is the 5th project Remedy has announced and is in active development on?
What?
I mean,
insane.
Yeah, it is a bit.
I know
insane.
they can't even make one good game.
Fuck off, Crispy.
Now they're gonna do 5.
Well, it's the law of large numbers, Crispy. One of them's gonna be good.
If they just throw a bunch of shit at the wall.
And you know what? That one.
And I bet the game that is good. I bet the game that is good, that does really well, will be a third-person shooter.
You know what? It fucking will. And that's okay, because they know what they're good at, and they stick to it.
So okay, so we have Max Payne 1 and 2. We got Alan Wake 2. And then we have 3 projects that we only have code names on. We have Heron, which is expected to be a Control sequel. We have Condor.
Which we all knew was coming.
Yeah. We have Condor, which is a Control spinoff that's co-op PvE focused. And then we have another project that's
Nick doesn't like that one. He's not excited about that idea.
No, fuck that idea.
And then we have a free-to-play co-op online game coming called Vanguard. That is an entirely different new IP.
I'm not super interested in that one either. Which I know is super predictable, but whatever. And let's be honest, Alan Wake 2 is totally going to end up being a Control spinoff as well. Like Alan Wake 2 is going to be the game that I think ties those two games together inherently.
I mean, probably. I mean, based on the way the teaser let off in the DLC for Control, but
I can't wait to see that Control teaser where they show a pair of shoes and like a tree for 3 seconds and then talk about the game.
You're right. All right. So we got that. That's cool news. And then, of course, the last one, the one I've been dying to talk about. God, Lord have mercy. Kingdom Hearts 4 was announced.
Why?
Sora finally has bare feet, and they shrunk them.
Sora,
they shrunk them,
dude. Yeah, like what the? How much fucking tissue paper does he stick in those fucking big ass shoes of his?
Oh man, people are waiting for this moment. I of course looked up some fan art of Sora and feet, and there's so much of it, and the feet are huge, right? Because he always wears these Mickey Mouse shoes.
It would be so fucking funny if he got to the real world and then like he can't walk properly and keeps falling over because his feet are too small.
No, they're small feet now.
No, but I'm saying like they acknowledge that in the lore of the game. Like when his feet get small, he's like, "Oh, what happened to my feet?"
I love how this.
Hey, Riku, can you smell them for me?
Oh my
god! This conversation immediately immediately fell
It's
apart.
Kingdom Hearts. It's okay to get weird right away.
I think my feet got
You're right.
Norded.
How old is Sora now? Is he like
That's the point,
is he
Nick.
18 plus now?
Yeah.
He's
Do
got
you
to
think
be.
he's gonna fuck?
Finally, all of that Kingdom Hearts porn is legal.
I mean, who's he gonna fuck? How old is Moana?
What
Dude.
the fuck are you doing?
I don't think Moana is 18.
Well, she might be in this universe.
No, that's true. It takes place, yeah.
Yeah, Elsa's like a queen, right? Or wait, what
This
happened
is,
in Frozen?
guys? This is borderline inappropriate.
This is
I'm just gonna.
happening.
No, we're trying to find a non-inappropriate pairing.
Yeah,
Exactly.
non-inappropriate is what we're looking for.
I guess appropriate would be the word.
Yeah, like Sora and Olaf. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
does anybody have any actual thoughts on the Kingdom Hearts 4 announcement? I don't even know why I asked, to be honest. At this point.
well, yeah, like Star Wars and Marvel and stuff, right? This is all that stuff's gonna happen. Now, right?
Everybody is the big
You know,
thing
we
right
live
now.
in a
everybody's
world of
thinking-
like, we live in a world of serious adult Buzz Lightyear movies. So,
So
it's-
hold on. Here's my frustration because I just kind of looked it up out of curiosity because I was not a fan of Kingdom Hearts 3. I think I did finish it, but I
Me
would
too.
recommend nobody play it because it's bad.
I'm gonna play it.
And
not great.
please don't, Nick. I promise you.
Nick, don't.
You're
I
not-
promise you.
Oh, here's the deal. I'll
This
play it.
isn't
I
the
won't
one,
tell you.
Nick.
I
This
won't
is-
tell you that I'm playing.
You guys don't
Here's the thing.
understand. This is Nick's art. This is how like he has to
you're
suffer
gonna
for
play
this.
it and then you're gonna cry yourself to sleep at night because
but I
you hate
won't.
yourself. So I just looked it up
I-
out of curiosity, and it seems like as of now, Kingdom Hearts 3 is the best-selling game in the series, which fucking just flabbergasts me. I'm like, just like how?
Oh, yeah, no,
They
I mean,
they
how could it not
released
be?
each of those games about 18 times. Like, how is that
Yeah.
possible?
Yeah, they
First of
had
all, it's-
they had multiple decades to build up Kingdom Hearts 3.
I
I'm
don't
not-
understand, Nick. You're Nick. I hate anime Henderson, and you're like all about Kingdom Hearts. Like Nick hates Perfect Blue, loves Nomura.
No. He's
Don't
all
get it.
about
I don't-
he's all about Disney.
Oh, the
I mean, honestly,
Disney
it is
part.
the Disney stuff.
Disney
that I care
anime.
About, yeah.
That is
It is
American.
definitely. I mean, I'm very nostalgic for Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2, and I know
That's
that doesn't
fine,
mean
Nick.
much for. I
Those
know,
are pretty good games.
guys. I know. But here's the
3
problem.
is bad.
Here's the problem. I'm gonna play Kingdom Hearts 4, but I'm not gonna do it. I haven't played 3. So I
Wait.
gotta play 3.
Hold on.
Oh my god.
You cannot say you're going to play Kingdom Hearts 4 if you haven't played Kingdom Hearts 3 yet, right? You like actually might play Kingdom Hearts 3 and then say I'm not going to play Kingdom Hearts 4.
Sure. Well, then I would love to make that decision based on actual experience.
But you're not to get your
didn't bring
full
this up.
Kingdom Hearts experience. You got to also play the standalone
No,
expansion they released last year.
No, Nick.
Fuck
Don't you
off.
understand that you will understand the story of Kingdom Hearts if you play all the games?
Hold on, Nick. Hold on.
No, I don't want to
I
have
will give
this
you permission.
conversation.
I will give you permission to play
Don't
Kingdom
need
Hearts
your
3 right
permission.
now. If you can tell me
It's
what
right there.
was
I own it.
who is Xehanort?
Shut the fuck. It's fucking Sora's.
Well, he used the word "who," so it's a person. He's a guy.
No, it's his nobody. It's Sora's nobody.
No,
Right?
And
I still don't know
No.
what that means.
no.
I don't fucking. Guys,
That's not-
Guys, I don't.
That's
know.
not
Okay,
Sora's
what are the
nobody.
worlds? What worlds
Nick,
do we
what-
want?
what-
Come on.
What was
Bring it
Xehanort's
back.
plan? What was
Bring it back.
Xehanort trying to do, Nick?
Bring it back.
Nolan, I know you think you're making a point, but you're not. First of all, this trailer. Everybody right now talking about this trailer is freaking out because they think the forest environment that showed up in the trailer is Endor from
Endor.
Star Wars.
Mm.
I think Star
What?
Wars will be there.
Yeah, no,
What?
you can
Would it
apparently
be-
see an ATST.
Have we ever seen
foot.
Endor? in
Okay, but
Star
is it like a
Wars? I don't know if we've
Pacific
ever actually seen it.
Northwest redwood forest?
They're kind of going for that, yeah.
I mean, people have been talking about it, but there's totally going to be Darth Vader hanging out with Organization 13.
Guys,
Dude, I don't want.
This podcast has sealed the deal.
You know what's
I am-
weird?
I'm not playing
up,
another
Kristen?
second of Elden Ring until I play Kingdom Hearts 3 all the way through.
I really can't wrap my head around Darth Vader hanging out with Organization 13, but I could totally see Palpatine. Like, no
yeah,
problem.
yeah.
Well, hold on. Crispy, the reason he would hang out with him is because he's gonna
Oh
get.
my
Norded.
god! What if there's a fucking
Vader
level on like
Norden.
Exegol? Like, oh, what?
Okay.
No, this
Are you gonna
shit
have like a
exists.
gummy
This is
swing?
bad.
Kingdom Hearts 3 did give us the scene where Woody just went off on whoever the fuck from Organization
I don't even
13
know what you're
saying,
talking about. I've never
you
played
don't
it.
have a mom. Like, he was just fucking brutal. No one's ever loved you.
Damn, that sounds like my jam. I should play that.
Oh,
Where is there
God.
a
It's not a
Tell
good
port?
me,
game.
tell me how many white
No.
crabs you collect in the Pirates of the Caribbean world, Nick.
Nolan, I don't know. I haven't played it, but I'm going to.
All right.
That's
All
my
right.
point.
Let me know how it goes when you press.
No more
was it
Elden
square?
Ring.
Press square to win.
No more Elden Ring until I finish Kingdom Hearts 3.
I want
Okay,
someone
that's
to.
a lie. I'm not doing anything that crazy. But
Eh.
well, I'm glad we just had this really enlightening conversation about Kingdom Hearts 4.
There's a Moana world.
There's got to be, right? It's got to be.
I don't know. No, Moana merch did poor, so Disney doesn't care. So,
Really?
but I guess they do kind of pick worlds from.
Vang
This-
has it. Vang's got it. Idea. Kingdom Hearts 3 Project M.
Oh God.
Fuck you.
No,
Knock it out in
No.
a day. Do it for me,
No.
guys. Do it
Impossible.
You can do it
first
for
of all.
yourself.
for me. I'll just do a single Kingdom Hearts 3 Project M, but I'm racing myself.
And
Play for charity.
Can you beat that game in a day?
I don't know. That's a good question.
I
All
want to see
right,
you race
so
Carlos through that.
I'm really glad we had this conversation. All our listeners need to know is that Kingdom Hearts 4 was announced, and it's a thing that's happening.
Nick,
So,
if you rush the main story according to how long to beat, you can beat it in 21.5 hours, but the average is 30 hours. So
Yeah,
you
so
can't
that's
even
not-
beat it in a day.
that's not
we-
happening.
How old is
Before we
Rapunzel?
move on from Kingdom Hearts, can we just acknowledge that if Star Wars is in Kingdom Hearts and the world that they choose to represent Star Wars is Endor, that sucks. Like that's kind
Sure.
of dumb.
But like,
My
Which
final
planet
thought.
would you have chosen?
I don't know.
Tatooine?
Fucking not Endor. Coruscant.
Coruscant?
Like, yeah, I don't know. Fucking.
they're gonna choose
Honestly,
worlds that everyone knows.
everyone's sick of desert worlds, but I would take Tatooine over Endor any fucking day. Any day.
Can I just say to end this conversation that
Ewoks, man. Ewoks.
Kingdom Hearts 3 has no Final Fantasy in it, which was a very important part of, how they sold the series in the first place.
Real
Please
quick,
bring
they put-
back some Final
What if
Fantasy.
they put Final Fantasy 14 in it?
guys,
Please
okay.
bring back some Final Fantasy.
Guys, listen.
What
Brad's
if you
actually
get it
wrong.
amazing?
Brad's
What?
actually wrong. There was Final Fantasy in Kingdom Hearts 3, and I know this because I listened to oh my god, the
I finished that
Funny
game.
Games Daily this week where they were talking about Kingdom Hearts 4, and Tim Geddes went into this long thing about Final Fantasy and Kingdom Hearts, and I learned a lot about Kingdom Hearts, especially Kingdom Hearts 3. Final Fantasy Versus 13 is actually technically in Kingdom Hearts 3. There's a game that I guess the T-Rex in Toy Story World is obsessed with, and it's basically Final
Venom
Fantasy
Rex
Versus
or
13.
something. Look, you don't know what you're talking about, Nick.
That's
There's
Final
no-
Fantasy Versus 13. It's in there, bitch. It's in there.
There's no. Okay.
I'm just saying, you're technically wrong. You're
No,
technically wrong.
that's not Final Fantasy. It's some other made up bullshit.
It is a canceled Final Fantasy project that never saw the light of day officially, and it is heavily hinted at in
Versus
in
13
Kingdom
is
Hearts 3.
15.
No,
We were there.
15 is a game that used a lot of assets and ideas and concepts that were created for Versus 13, but it is not the same game that was created.
We saw the title change at the end of the trailer.
Yeah, the
Brett?
title changed.
Prolonging this discussion.
And
All
no
right,
one knows how
let's
old
move
Moana
on.
is. Okay.
Let's move on. We got some questions, a few questions this week. Again, I want to remind everybody, if you're listening to the show, if you're walking around listening to us, and you want to ask us some questions for a future episode, you can do so one of two ways. You can go to Discord at discord.gg/4Player. We have a channel set up called Submit a Question. You can I make threads in there for each episode. Go in there, leave us a question. We will answer it on a future show. You can also email us at questions@4playernetwork.com. And our first question this week. comes from. Are y'all ready to do the Cockney thing now?
Do it.
Are y'all prepared? Do you have it pulled
Or
up?
maybe we should end with that. Maybe we should end with that.
Okay, you're right.
That's
right, we'll say that one for last. So we'll do Zero Skies first. He says, and stop me if I already asked this question. He says, I've met y'all in person at PAX West years back in Seattle.
I'm sorry, who did?
Zero Skies.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he came to one of our meetups, I believe. He said, I met y'all in person at PAX West years back in Seattle. And quick aside, we didn't really do a show last week. We didn't have much to talk about in terms of the whole E3 being canceled thing, but this is probably related to that. He says, what are you looking forward to for Expo stuff since E3 keeps dying? Are Expo still something you want to do? Did I ask this question on the show? No?
I think we
remember.
Got a similar question previously. But
I think we've had a similar question to this one, but not quite this
last
one.
week. Also, E3's dead.
So this is a direct response to the E3 2022 being canceled entirely. He says, so I guess the question is, are expos still something we are interested in doing, and which ones would have our interest?
I mean, I would absolutely be all for it. E3 was my vacation every year, so
I want E3 to exist so I can watch E3 from the outside. But I'm kind of over going to expos right now these days.
I mean, it's hard to imagine going to expos right now, because even if it was, I wouldn't probably be going, because it's probably not a good idea from a public health standpoint to be going.
The
to
week of gaming
expo.
stuff was cool.
I mean, I love E3. I know there's mixed opinions here about, the value of it. Or
I think as far as conventions and expos go, like E3 was more fun at first because it felt like more exclusive, but in the long run, it was the worst because it was like the most corporate, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, that was kind of the point of it.
Yeah, I know, but like way too much of that expo was operating like over our heads or around it. Like people just suck there. Like it just sucked.
There are a lot of shit.
Like trying to get into meetings and stuff. It's just filled with like the kind of tech bros that like live around here, and it's just like, man, this fucking is lame. And PAX was always fucking fun as hell. Like, because there was just stuff going on, and there was more people who were just like, there to have fun and be excited and things like that.
That was the difference between them. Was PAX was supposed to be for the people. That was the whole point.
No,
of it.
I know that was like kind of the cultural idea.
I'm agreeing with you. I'm agreeing with you that's why it was fun, was because it was more indie focused. Usually when you went, while there were some announcements, it was more about just literally just being able to check out cool games.
It's hard for me to get like weepy about E3 dying, because it's like, oh yeah, okay, great. So yeah, whatever. Like that really only served fucking corporate people and shit like that. But if PAX died, I think that would actually be kind of sad.
Yeah, PAX dying would be tragic. And I think it's such a weird situation, because for me, the draw of, I love E3 because when you go to E3, that's where almost everything you're seeing is stuff that's
happening
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like that is the draw of it. Is
the eyes of the gaming world are there.
Yeah, I mean, look.
But I do.
Yeah, we went to E3 a bunch of times, but like most of the people listening and most of the people who experienced E3 experienced it from the outside. And there's something about that week and all those press conferences and all the footage that comes out that is so different than anything surrounding like PAX, right? Like no one's like watching PAX for a whole week because there's exciting stuff happening from as an outsider, right? So
yeah,
E3,
but like
as an expo to go to is one thing, but E3 being gone from how most people consume E3, like that is not going to be easily replaced, because that week was such like this cool moment of hype, new shit, right?
Everybody's throwing around the term E3.
You don't think that like something like Cyberpunk kind of killed the mystique of E3 a bit?
No, not really.
Yeah, that was a game that showed really well for years and then came out and was a huge pile of shit.
They only ever showed it like behind closed doors, though. I mean,
yeah, but like remember what a fucking remember what a fucking scoop it was? Like everyone was writing op-eds about E3. Everyone was getting hyped about E3, or I mean about Cyberpunk. Everyone's like, that last time they showed it at E3 when they were like giving out those statues, it was like people were like clutching those to their chest because like walking around one was like, oh my god, you were in the fucking Cyberpunk demo, like, and people were talking about what they saw in there, and you're like, oh my god, is this just like the greatest game that's ever been made? Like, I don't know, Cyberpunk kind of killed E3 for me. It was like, wow, if a game that shitty can build that much hype at E3, then what fucking good is E3? Like,
it's the whole.
There's Cyberpunk is definitely a good example of something like that has happened, and it's happened multiple times over the years. But there is also a lot of really exciting stuff that you get to see for the very first time at E3, and you just don't really get that at PAX. Everything that you see at PAX has been announced already, and everybody already kind of knows about it, what to expect. Of course, it's a lot of people's first opportunity to get their hands on it.
I think that is specifically true for like AAA and larger like AA development. I think what PAX has in spades that E3 does not have is indie stuff, and like that's the kind of like those are like the games that you encounter and then you were like championing. Then you're like, oh my god, I saw this at PAX 5 years ago and it was incredible.
Too.
Well, hold on. The problem, Brad. The problem with that is
why don't you just fucking marry E3 if you love it so much?
The problem is because E3 is such a spectacle, and Cyberpunk, everything that's not a big AAA thing just gets so overshadowed when it comes to E3. Everyone for that week is talking about these big things, and anything that isn't big just gets left in the dust.
It's just a fucking steamroller.
But
tell us about the new Assassin's Creed that's coming out.
I know, but there was also there's always like those games at E3 that are getting spread because of word of mouth, because people are like, dude, like that E3 that Scribblenauts was unveiled. That was never in any press conference, but people were on the floor. They tried it, and everyone was like, dude, you gotta check out Scribblenauts. That shit is crazy. Like that stuff happened at E3 too. Maybe not to the same. I mean, whatever. What are we talking about?
I will. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. I was going to say, my final thoughts on the whole E3 thing is the thing is E3 had a very important purpose until the ability to stream and do all of this stuff was made so much easier. Back in 2008, you couldn't just like hold like an impromptu press conference and stream it on Twitch because it wasn't really a fucking thing. And so now that there are so many platforms that make it easy to make big announcements, and you can easily make something kind of, hype on Twitter leading up to it and all this stuff, and everyone knows, the thing's going to happen. And then you have the, press conference that is not quite E3, but it is, a Nintendo Direct. It is a big thing. Shit gets announced. In chat, they're talking about, go announce your next console at PAX. Well, you're not going to see any console announced at a conference anymore.
The biggest thing I can remember,
even if E3 was still going on, if E3 didn't die, I don't think consoles would be announced at E3 anymore. I think companies want to have that one-off thing where all the light is on them, no one else is showing anything, and we're getting all of the news.
The biggest thing I can ever remember being announced at PAX was Duke Nukem Forever. Like that making a return was announced like the morning of the first day of PAX, and all of a sudden press who were going in for the early hour were like, oh my god, Duke Nukem Forever is here? Are you fucking kidding me? And that was just like everybody rushed that during the press hour.
Let's not forget that Sony and Microsoft were already pulling out of E3 before coronavirus was a thing.
Fucking thing. It's like coronavirus is just the excuse.
Yeah,
it was dying already.
But E3 and I think E3 as we know it is dead. But I do think that there will be, because there is something you can't really replace, which is that like week of people want that week of celebration of gaming and that excitement. Like you can't really, like, that is a huge marketing tool for companies. So there's always there's going to be a need for that. So I do believe them when they say that E3 quote unquote will be back in some form in 2023. I don't think it may not resemble E3 as we know it, but I do think it'll still exist in some form. Which maybe that's for the best.
Going back to the original point of the question, which was coverage of these events. Like, I wouldn't be upset, but I would be really sad that E3 would be going away, because I have so many great memories of covering that. Going and experiencing Metro Exodus, going to experience sitting down with the director of at Mimimi to play with him 45 minutes hands-on of Desperados 3. Just like so many little things I wouldn't be able to experience anymore, and it's sad.
It is sad, but it's also like, I don't even know. We can't really say much about it right now because one way or the other, like, whether it dies or not, like, I wouldn't be going at the moment because of the situation, the COVID situation at the moment. So, like, I don't really know what to say about it. I really hope we get back to that point where it's like I can even think about it being an option. But, like, at the same time, part of what I loved about going to E3, as much as aside from the obvious excitement about the games itself, was like the best years going to E3 were always the years where as many of us as possible were going together. And I just don't think that's really a reality anymore. Unfortunately, because those are the years I had the most fun. Those are the years I had fun even when there wasn't a lot of exciting stuff. Like, because there's been a few years where E3 just didn't really deliver on like the games that were announced and shown or whatever. But like the years when that happened, and we also had a large presence there, where 4 or 5 of us were there together, it didn't really matter because I had a lot of fun going around. We were shooting silly videos and just having a good time. Like, that was awesome. I want that, whether that's in Seattle, going to PAX, or Boston, or
like the year when
LA for E3.
When Prey 2 was our game of the show.
Oh my god! Why would you
not the year where our game of the show was Biomutant. Fuck that year.
Hey, man! I feel personally attacked.
Biomutant demoed really well.
Cool.
Let's move on.
It demoed really well.
Let's move on.
Our
Prey
next
2
question
demoed really well too.
Yeah.
God damn it! Hey, at least Biomutant has that on Prey 2, right? It exists. Our next question comes from Scud. He says, having recently played Days Gone, and I'm now 50% of the way through Ghost of Tsushima, I ask... Oh, sorry, hold on. Let me enlarge this. I ask, is the Ubisoft formula of open world just a problem for Ubisoft teams? These games borrow a lot, but seemingly don't annoy or sin quite as much. I'm starting to believe it's just that Ubisoft doesn't make anything compelling anymore.
Yeah, I think that's at least part of it.
I don't know. I don't think people were that kind to Days Gone in terms of like its open world design when that came out.
But the things that
I've heard
the things that are great about Days Gone are like it sins, quote unquote, in the same way that Ubisoft games sins, but like
I've heard more positivity about Days Gone's world, like, than I've heard about any Ubisoft game in the last 10 years.
I don't know.
Which is strange to think about, because it is absolutely a game that would not exist without the foundation that Ubisoft open world games has. But like Ghost of Tsushima is another great example. Like, that is another game that draws a lot of inspiration from the Ubisoft open world formula, but it does not.
There's just something so fucking dull about Ubisoft's, like, what's the word I could use for this? Like when I say design, I don't mean like the technical design of the world, but I mean just like the plots and like the characters.
Oh, but see, I don't think, like, maybe Valhalla was a little kind of whatever, but like people really liked Odyssey and those characters and stuff, and I think the same for Origins as well.
I just mean that like Ubisoft has this thing about like making stuff that looks like it's, I don't know, like It just
it's hard. I know what you mean. It's hard
it's
to put your
like
finger on it.
it's like a really lame version of trying to be cool, you know? Like it's just like everything about them is very like focus tested and very like, oh, what's hip, what's trendy, what's something that we could spin off like a fashion line out of, you know? Like I don't know. Like how do you end up with shit like Watch Dogs and fucking Aiden Pierce? You end up with shit like most Assassin's Creed games. You end up with just like these it's like watching a teenager make D&D characters. It's like, like I know you think that's really cool, but this just falls so flat.
You might be
Like,
right, but that is off topic, I think, from what he's getting at.
yes.
Can I just say,
but what I'm saying is I think that leaves no room. Like that kind of design leaves absolutely no room for fucking up any of the technical stuff. Like no one's going to sit there and put up with your bullshit if it's like to see the adventures of Aiden Pierce. Like, who fucking cares?
But then
You know what I
they
mean?
turn
I
around
really
and make
liked Watch Dogs 2. I mean,
yeah, Watch Dogs 2 is great. Like it's
Yeah.
like a night and day. It's almost like
They've made good games. It's just that like it's not the default.
also he gives Days Gone and Ghost of Tsushima, and Days Gone is like kind of a borderline example, anyways, based on how that was received generally. But you know, there's also like we just talked about Ghostwire Tokyo and having pretty dreadful open world Ubisoft design, or you know, like Just Cause or something. Like they exist. Other bad open world games from non Ubisoft. I mean, it's
when it comes to Ubisoft, I think I really do think it just comes from an over reliance on the same property. Like if Far Cry had 1/5 the number of games that it had, if Assassin's Creed was only like 3 games or whatever, I feel like people wouldn't be having so many negative things to say about them. But because there's so many of those games, instead of spending some of that effort on establishing new, like part of the thing that makes Ghost of Tsushima so refreshing, despite the fact that it is definitely an iteration on Ubisoft open world game, is that it was new. Like the world felt unique, even though it was populated in a kind of a similar way.
it was the wind.
Well, I think there's like a harmony of style there. It's not just like what's a cool story.
Harmony of style.
What's a cool story? What's a cool looking character? What's a cool badass thing for him to say? Like Ghost of Tsushima had like it had like something to say, you know. It had a cohesive idea. It wasn't just like I swear to God, I don't know how to explain it, but when I look at a lot of big Ubisoft stuff, it's like a fucking fashion designer made this game. Like it's so like in the now. It's so like there's nothing about this that's made to be classic. There's nothing about this that's designed to have staying power. It's supposed to capture a very specific trend, a very specific mood right now. You're supposed to play it and then forget about it. Like it feels like that's a charitable reading of it, but
back to the question. Even
how
this
is
year,
that not?
Brad, that is the question. He is answering the question.
How is
I don't know
that
why
no, it's like, does Ubisoft suck and other people's are good at it? But when you look at this year, you look at Pokemon, you look at Dying Light 2, you look at Horizon, you look at Ghostwire Tokyo. Those are all open world games where people were kind of dumping on the open world design a little bit and saying this is kind of like Ubisoft.
I'm just saying that they're like the more like ephemeral aspects of their design attitude are worse than those other games, because it's like even if they execute the technical aspects of it well or as good as any of these other open world games that are out there, there's still something so like cheap and flimsy about the rest of it that maybe isn't as true with something like Pokemon or Dying Light 2. Like Dying Light 2 feels like a cheap game, but it feels more sincere than anything Ubisoft puts out. Like I
mean Cassandra's awesome.
I do think that's
so. So hold on. So what I wanted to
cool.
That's fine. So one thing I wanted to bring up in
cool too.
World Teller kind of just brought it up in chat was like the more recent Ubisoft games do feel like they were designed by a big group of people. This person has this idea, this person has this idea, and neither of them can compromise, so both ideas go in. If you look at some of the older Ubisoft games, like some of the original Assassin's Creeds, they were, I don't want to say simpler, but they kind of were. Yeah, you had a slightly open world and there was a few things to do in it. And every game since then, they keep iterating more and adding more things, but they don't remove things. So it seems like they're just clustering it. And when you look at the UIs of the newer games, the screens are just littered with shit. There's text everywhere. There's different types of missions. There's pop-ups that, let you buy horse armor and other things with real world money. There's just so much shit going on now. But then conversely, you look at Pokemon Arceus. It feels more like one of the original Assassin's Creed games. There's not as much to do in the world, but now people are like, well, you went too far now. Like I do want some stuff in there, and so they simplified it. I do think that's probably a limitation of the fact that it's on the Switch, and they tried to just kind of do a little more than Game Freak bit off a little more than they could chew. I do think that the amount of shit that is in the more recent like Assassin's Creed is way too much. And Pokemon is not enough because it literally is just an open world where there's a bunch of Pokemon and you throw some stuff at trees and bushes. I would like a little more substance there. And I think there's a happy medium you could hit.
Assassin's Creed's biggest issue is definitely bloat and some of the gross, microtransaction stuff. But I don't think they're so much worse than some of the others out there.
We need to move on because Brad needs to bounce in 20 minutes. So we have one more question tonight. This is the one that I saved for last. This is from Cracknacker. He says, "Hey guys, it's your friendly neighborhood Londoner. I just finished Bug Snacks, and boy howdy, that was traumatizing. My pronouns are he, him, his. Thanks for encouraging support of our LGBTQ plus community. Have you heard?" His question is, "Have you heard of Cockney rhyming slang? If yes, could you please show off your knowledge? If not, please scan the examples section of this link, the Wikipedia link, and attempt to use an example in your 4-player minutes." Oh, I didn't read this part. Maybe it's a good thing we save this for last. He says, "It would make my day." So I sent this link.
I'm familiar in the sense that I know it's like they take some bullshit and then they take some other bullshit that kind of sounds like that bullshit, and you get to the point where what they're saying doesn't make any fucking sense.
Well, it's rhyming slang.
So
yeah, it wasn't okay. I mean, the whole point of it, my understanding, the whole point of it was that it was invented by prisoners, right? So that they could have conversations without the guards knowing what they're talking about.
I believe that's accurate.
Oh, actually, let me see if that's. I mean, this is a. You would think that would be in the Wikipedia, right?
Which is
Here's some examples.
Probably why Cockney also is kind of like associated with like a lower class.
Ah, that's fascinating. I'll post the link if anybody's interested in the show notes for checking this out. But some of the examples we have here, I don't know how we want to do this. So it says,
all I know is I like looking at some Bristols. That's all I know.
Hold on, now I have to go. Now I have to go through this and figure out where Bristols. Oh yeah, Bristols.
Maybe some Bristols, maybe some bottle.
What was the one like Bob's your uncle?
No, I mean I don't see that. I mean this is just some examples.
I don't know.
Oh, you got the whole master list of Cockney rhyming slang there in front of you?
I got a list of about 30.
Yeah.
Bristols is apparently titties. That's what. I like how it used a slang to explain another slang. Yeah. So Bristols. What is it? What is the column for original phrase?
All right. Versus... So hold on. The way Cockney rhyming slang started was instead of saying titty, you would say Bristol City because it kind of sounds like titty. But then that derived into just Bristols. So instead of saying Bristol City every time, you would just say Bristol. So instead of saying, oh, I'm going to go up the stairs, you would say, I'm going to go up the apple and pears. And then they just changed that to just apples. I'm heading up the apples. They kind of started taking out the stuff that made it the slang that made it make sense. So most of the stuff, the reason it's called Cockney rhyming is generally the original phrase rhymes with the word that you're trying to mention. So instead of saying telephone, it's dog and bone. But then all of a sudden you're like, dog and bone sounds like phone. So when you just say, I'm getting a call on the dog, all of a sudden, it kind of changes things.
It's nonsense.
So it's very much nonsense. It's insane.
Bottle and glass apparently is for ass. But now it's just bottle.
Glass sounds like ass. But instead of saying bottle and glass, because it sounds like you're saying ass, you just say bottle.
Okay.
Yep.
That's weird.
This is what I knew about Cockney rhyming, and it's insane.
I just had a wicked raspberry.
There is a Slipknot song called Butcher's Hook, and I'm wondering if it derives from this, but it's just the word is butchers. I don't.
Are you having a Turkish?
I have a look.
Hold on, a Turkish. Now I gotta like.
Blowing a raspberry comes from raspberry tart for fart. Didn't know that.
This is weird, guys. I don't.
Trying to reverse engineer one of these is sort of what makes it interesting.
So if I was to.
Who's
So
Gary
like,
Ablett?
loaf of bread, which is now slang the word loaf, which means head. Is that used as like
Head.
the verb or
No,
it
like
rhymes with head.
loaf
Like-
means
not
head.
the verb. Hey, literally the
Ow!
head.
It hit me
give
loaf.
someone? So you don't give
Exactly.
someone loaf? Is that?
All right, a little bit of loaf.
Oh
Maybe.
my God.
Dude, I bet people have all kinds of
You got
words for
a little loaf in
blowjobs.
trouble, Nick.
No,
Loaf-
Barasic.
you could
Skint.
know,
Oh, what the fuck
you
is
can like invent your own Cockney rhyming, right? Like
Yeah,
it
you
wouldn't be head, it would be like full. You got to just go backwards. Like fellatio sounds like ratio, so
Idiot.
giving her the Twitter or something, right? Like it's insane. It doesn't make any sense.
I don't, yeah. Yeah.
Hi,
This is weird.
No, that's exactly how it works. As you find something that rhymes with it, like you wouldn't say ratio. You'd say like, oh, you know, I got a little Twitter ratio earlier, and then you wouldn't say that. You would just say I got a little Twitter this morning.
That'd be just tweet.
Yeah.
Wait, no.
What
that's
the fuck? I like how treacle
Treacle.
is a slut.
Treacle.
Treacle?
Treacle,
Treacle?
like a
Like a
treacle,
treacle
tart.
tart.
Yeah,
I've never
it
heard
literally
that word.
after that
You've
it
never
says
watched the
treacle
Great
tart.
British Baking Show, Nick?
No, I have. I actually watched one this week.
Crispy. Oh, I was literally watching one with dinner tonight.
Treacle tart means sweetheart.
Yeah,
I don't know.
This is phenomenal. Yeah, I hope this answers your. I hope this answers your question.
I mean,
guys,
I think it would be.
Yeah, I
I
don't know.
will
You should
try
watch
and
more
remember to work this into
British
my
television.
4-player minute, but I don't know. All right. So
Meryl
time to
Streep.
that's it for questions tonight. We got to wrap up this show, guys. But again, if you're listening at home and you want to ask us a question or suggest a news topic that you want to hear our opinions on, you can go to discord.gg/4player, find the submit questions thread, and post a question there. Or you can email us at questions@4playernetwork.com, and we'll get you on the docket for a future show. But now it is time to wrap up the show with the 4-player minute. So our final thought for the night. Hype, sweat, thank you or fuck you. Brad, I'll let you start us off.
My final thought is, I guess, about the NVIDIA
You can
leak.
still call it a 4-player minute, guys. You don't have to avoid using the word 4-player minute. That's still what this is.
My 4-player minute is about that NVIDIA leak. We've got yet another confirmation, which it's been many times over confirmed to be real. Even NVIDIA said it was real, so we know it's real. But Tactics Ogre Reborn got registered by Square Enix, which is very exciting for me. Tactics Ogre Remaster or whatever was on that NVIDIA leak. But, it's nice to kind of revisit it every now and then and realize the things that are still on that list but haven't been announced yet, like a Final Fantasy IX remake, which, a lot of people believe is not, because they list a lot of remasters, but Final Fantasy IX is listed as a remake, and there's a lot of speculation as to what that might be.
If it's real.
Yeah, which is kind of exciting and kind of cool because you expect it to not be as ridiculously over budget bombastic like Final Fantasy VII remake. It's probably just going to be a more normal.
I don't think it
remake.
would need to be impressive.
Yeah, but there's a Final Fantasy Tactics remake or remaster on that list, which is exciting for me, and of course Dragon's Dogma 2, which has been leaked and confirmed so many times. The original Capcom hack. There's been job postings. There's been this NVIDIA leak. We know Dragon's Dogma 2 exists. That's
New
the one.
Bioshocks on that list.
Yeah, and again, that's the thing we've heard about BioShock for a long time as well. It's just I'm ready for some of this stuff. I'm glad that we have like this little secret master list that I feel like not enough people are talking about, and they probably should be. Like Final Fantasy IX remake seems like a really big deal, but Dragon's Dogma 2, right? We're living in a post Elden Ring world. What even is Dragon's Dogma 2?
I don't know. They decided to go back to the drawing board when they saw Elden Ring come out.
Well, I don't think they have to. I think they're like we're living in a world where Monster Hunter is huge, right? Right, Capcom's biggest game ever. Elden Ring is like one of Namco's biggest games ever. Like this is exciting stuff. I think Dragon's Dogma is coming out in a world that is ready for it, right? And maybe they weren't ready for that first one, but I think they'll be ready for this one. So I'm excited to see. I hope it's a really big production and man, let's make it happen.
Make it happen.
Can't wait.
Also, the Resident Evil 4 remake is on that list, which another thing that we all know exists, but it's nice to see it sitting there on the list because it's almost like, yes, it's there, but just waiting. Like there's almost no chance that it's fake. It's coming. Chris Davis, why don't you go next?
I do have a 4-player minute. I do have a final thought because I wanted to bring y'all's attention to a game
That's the same.
It is still called a 4-player minute.
I mean, okay, whatever. So, I want to bring your attention to a game that I found out about this evening and just got kind of shadow launched. And I'm going to tell you the name of the publisher, and you're going to be like, "What the fuck?" But like, you actually this might be something worth something to look at. It's called Crime Site. It is being published by Konami. It is hang on. Hold your goddamn horses. This is an asymmetrical PvP multiplayer game.
That's literally every game that you're interested in.
The project director is Junji Ishii. He worked on 428 Shibuya Scramble, as well as 9 Persons, 9 Doors, 9 Hours.
Yeah, with visual novels, yes.
Yeah, visual novels. But this game theoretically sounds really interesting. It's you play as one of 2 AIs, and in the future that are trying to either predict and prevent a crime from happening or instigate the crime. It's weird. It's like an isometric Clue game. One person plays as the Sherlock AI trying to investigate and figure out who the killer is and who's going to kill who, while the Moriarty AI empowers the killer, gives them a weapon, and tries to program in how the killer will kill the victim. It sounds really weird, but it actually looks kind of interesting.
Oh, is there a gameplay?
Yeah, there's some gameplay. It shadow dropped on Steam today.
Oh.
So people really haven't had time to do impressions of it. But
what's it called again?
Crime Site.
Crime Site.
All one word. Crime Site.
SIGHT?
SIGHT, yes.
Okay.
Okay, that's fucking weird.
I think it's really weird. I think
Carl says it's been out for a month.
Really?
Maybe early access.
Maybe early access.
That's what Wall Carl in chat says.
Damn.
I mean, I'm just Steam says the release date was today, so I don't know. It's a $20 game. I think it's semi interesting the fact that Konami is actually publishing a new IP.
They didn't want to promote it because they didn't want people to think they actually make
video games anymore. This is listed as a social deduction game. Ooh. Is this just an Among Us?
Among Us.
Yeah.
That's what I'm reading. It says it's Clue meets Among Us.
Did you guys know that Fortnite has an Among Us mode?
Okay.
Really?
It does,
yeah. Okay. Squash this now. Well, Chris Davis, I'll leave it to you to investigate and report back.
I see what you did there.
It's funny because I didn't even when I said it. All right, Crispy, why don't you go next?
Okay. For my final 4-player thought this week,
Fuck you.
I'm getting really hyped about Gundam Evolution. Okay, they did a network test last weekend, I believe, and some of the streamers and game people who play shooters that I've seen who have tried it are saying that it is very good, and
It's
it is
Overwatch, right?
it's a 66 hero, like team-based hero shooter.
The
It's
UI is basically
Overwatch.
exactly the same.
Yeah, and they're saying that it's like better than Overwatch. That is a direct competitor to Overwatch, and that it is better right now currently than Overwatch. A big reason for that is because it still has that same sort of interesting interactions between character powers, without the ultimates or the supers kind of like taking over the show, right? Because that's kind of been the huge problem that's always plagued Overwatch, is that like a lot of the flow of that game is based around just like waiting out supers or charging your own super, and that's kind of like where all the gameplay is.
Yeah.
And this game does like supers are important and they're helpful, but they don't dominate the match. Like it's still a much more you might call it more skill based than Overwatch tends to be, which is fucking awesome. Plus, it's mobile suits, so like some of the characters that they've been previewing, the impression that I've been getting is that they've pulled what is good from Overwatch and left what was bad. Some of the characters function very similarly to Overwatch heroes. For instance, there is the Pale Rider, which in terms of this game plays very similarly to Soldier 76, except when you activate his ultimate mode, it gives you like the damage buff and the speed buff and the reloading buff, but without giving you the wall hacks that Soldier 76 gets, right? Which kind of makes him like fucking cheap when he's supering. But some of the stuff that they have in the game that isn't a direct ripoff from Overwatch is in its own way really cool and really unique to Gundam. The one that kind of jumps to mind for me is apparently the gun tank is in this game, and its super is that it comes apart and it launches the little core block fighter, the little fighter jet that's in the center of it, out, and you can like fly it around, and I don't know if you like run it into things and it explodes, or if it like, I don't know what it does, but it looks fucking awesome, and I am very excited for the prospect of like a good Gundam game, because that doesn't exist yet. And
When is that coming
this is somebody who has played dozens of hours of Battle Operation, what is it? Fucking Gundam Battle Operations 2, which is fine, but like I don't know that I'd call it like great or anything.
Fine at best.
Yeah.
There are two good Gundam games out there. The first is 0079 Side Story on the Dreamcast, and the second is the Battle Wing from the PS1 fighting game.
Oh, I had that. That was good.
Really?
Was it? I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's like a darling in the FGC, but I've
only ever heard good things.
It always confused and frustrated me. But then again, I don't really play fighting games, so what do I know? I just like, for a game series that is prolific as Gundam, there's so many Gundam games. So many of them seem to be mediocre at best.
It'll have its day.
So to have like
they always do.
To have Western shooter audiences be like, this is cool and this is better than Overwatch, is insane. Is like super exciting. Is super exciting. I don't know. It's called Gundam Evolution. It's supposed to come out later this year. I don't think they have an official date for the launch yet, but they've got a couple more network tests that they're gonna do. They just did one for Steam, and apparently they're gonna have one for PlayStation and Xbox soon. But we'll see. It's fucking sick, man. I can't wait. Oh,
Chef's
Gundams.
kiss.
So cool. So
All right,
cool.
Nolan, it is your turn.
My 4-player minute starts now. I've been way too busy lately. The past 2 years I've been doing basically nothing. Now all of a sudden in the past like 2 months I've been doing something almost every single weekend, and sometimes once or twice during the week, and it's kind of just been exhausting. I'm gonna have company in town this weekend, which is like fine and all, but it's like one of those things where I'm going from 0 to 100 real quick, and all of a sudden I just mentally am exhausted, and I don't say I don't want to play games. I just don't want to play intense things. So I've been playing a lot of like Monster Train and Tunic and stuff I can kind of just like sit back and do nothing with, less high stakes, which means I haven't really been playing any Elden Ring, even though I kind of want to. And I know I mentioned it the other week, but I still haven't really played any. And I do want
took
to.
like a 2-week
It's
break
just
and
more.
then went hard on it like last weekend. Felt good.
Okay. I still do want to play some. But yeah, I'm hoping that things might settle down soon, and I could mentally get back into the zone of playing games. But yeah, so also the other day I fell down the apples and I landed on my bottle, which caused me. I let out a little raspberry, which made the old Turkish, made the old trouble Turkish. I'm not telling any porkies. So that
Have
made
you
me
been sitting there writing this out?
It made me a little 2 and 8. So I rang up my China on the dog to hit up the Jack Tar for some Britneys.
Boo.
God damn, Nolan! I was literally gonna work the word Britney's into mine just for shits and giggles, but you just, god damn. Okay, well.
The problem is
thank
you
you for
sound
that.
too much like a septic.
This fucking
Yank.
guy. This fucking guy.
That's funny. All right, my 4-player minute starts now. I am getting excited. We are for the first time in a long time planning a vacation in October. We're gonna go to Oregon, the Portland area, do some nature hikes. See the sights. Never been to Oregon.
Are you saying you're gonna go on an Oregon Trail?
Yes. Thank you for keeping it relevant. But yeah, we're very, very excited. We're gonna go visit Oregon for like a week and a half, and then we're gonna fly down to LA and go to Disneyland. So that'll be exciting. So very, very much looking forward to that. But I'm very much looking forward to just traveling for the first time in a very long time and seeing the sights, going to a place I've never been, having some Britneys. It's gonna be great. If I want to keep it gaming related, by then, hopefully, I am Q2. I should have my Steam Deck. So that'll be the first opportunity to take the Steam Deck on like a trip. And that in and of itself is pretty cool. Brad's back. That's creepy as shit, Brad. But yeah, I don't know. I'm
Reapers ain't gonna get Brad.
I'm pretty excited for this trip. But yeah, that's all I got. So gonna keep it short and sweet. Guys, that is our show tonight. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for listening. 4playernetwork.com is, of course, our website where you can find all of our podcasts. You can also find our show on all major podcast services out there, so check it out. You can join us in Discord at discord.gg/4player. If you want to support us financially, you can subscribe on Twitch. You can support us on Patreon. We appreciate it either way. Also, I'm starting something new in Discord. I've been creating, there's an events channel now, which just kind of magically appeared during an update recently. I'm setting up events for the podcast, so if you would like to RSVP for our podcast recording, you'll get a nice gentle reminder in Discord when we're scheduled to go live. So RSVP for our shows in Discord. It's just another way that Discord keeps our community nice and tight and together. Great. Yeah, that's our show tonight, guys. We'll see you next week for a new episode. Bye.
Bye.